Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the show four exciting, talented, clever, humorous individuals who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, or repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who has a stopwatch. She's going to help me with the score, and she's also going to blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And it's a lovely, warm spring evening here, and they're in a great mood, the audience, so let's get started. Paul, will you begin the show? Oh, my motto. That's the subject. Can you tell us something about my motto in this game, starting now?
Be lucky, work hard. There can be no better motto than that, perhaps. If you find yourself work...
Tony challenged.
Well, I think he may have hesitated.
I think we do interpret that as hesitation.
I wasn't expecting it, because he's one of the finest speakers around. Yes. And yet he let himself down badly, I felt.
I neither worked hard or was lucky.
So, Tony, you have a correct challenge, so you get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 53 seconds available, starting now.
My favourite motto, I think, is you're never too old to be told off by a park keeper. And this is the way I try to live my life. That indeed did happen to me not long ago when I was playing a game with a ball against a shed, and along came this young fellow in a peaked cap and instructed me to finish this activity immediately. And I was delighted to see that he was only about 21 years old, and I am in my early 30s, delighted to be...
Right, Gyles, you challenged.
Oh, deviation.
So I better hear what your deviation is.
From the truth.
Yeah, obviously, yes. You're talking about age, are you?
He looks younger than springtime, but not quite that young.
Right, all right. So, Gyles, a correct challenge to you, a point to you. Take the subject, my motto, 26 seconds starting now.
Classical scholars who know that in loco parentis means my dad's an engine driver and terra salata is Greek for grouting will have no difficulty with my family motto, which is frustra, spelt F-R-U-S, in some strange way.
Gyles, you've been challenged. Tony, what was your challenge, Tony?
Challenge his spelling of that. I thought he came out with something that wasn't actually a letter.
Oh, yes.
He just sort of made some sounds.
No. I explained this as a classical reference, and I was doing the Latin pronunciation as taught at my prep school. Betsanger, 1961 to 64.
Yeah. Oh, 61 to 65. I can't remember that far back. I'm only 32.
Which year were you born, Tony?
Yeah, 1976.
That doesn't make you 32?
No.
Tony, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you have a correct challenge and say that you have another point, of course. 9 seconds, my motto, starting now.
My motto, which I mentioned earlier and won't say...
Well, it must be repetition. You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, but Paul, to be fair, it's a repetitious thought, but he didn't actually repeat what his motto was. But it was a good try. But I'll tell you what, this is what I sometimes do. If someone does something there which we enjoy and he got a nice laugh, give you a bonus point. But Tony had an incorrect challenge, so he keeps the subject. Another point to him. 7 seconds, my motto, Tony, starting now.
Imagine the scene in the local recreation ground as a crowd developed around us. Such an
So in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And this occasion was Tony Hawks, who's got the lead, as you can imagine, at the end of the round. And, Gyles, we'd like you to start the next round. 3 things that most enrage me. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
3 things that most enrage me. I will begin in an English town on a Saturday night when the girls are emerging from the local clubs and pubs. Thongs on display, 13, 14, 15 years of age. I'm enraged by this as they puke upon the pavement. I think to myself, who is at home looking after their babies? I am equally enraged by large people find on the London Underground. I travel by tube and surrounded always by the obese. Those with hormonal difficulties should go by bus. Under the surface, we expect to find...
Tony's challenged you.
I'm stopping him on behalf of society.
So what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
I think he said enraged twice. And enrage is on the card.
Yes. Oh, yes, clever. Listening. Oh. Yes. 3 things that most enrage me as a subject. You can repeat the words independently. And you said enraged.
As the first time, the thing that really does enrage me is the English country towns. And then I said the second time, this enraged me. But, I mean, it's a detail. It doesn't matter, of course.
Do you think, Gyles? I think you're right.
I shall be listening back in 6 weeks' time when I go down.
It shows you how fair I always try to be. Last time I gave the benefit of the doubt to Tony when it was against you. This time you will have the benefit of the doubt. Keep the subject, and there are 23 seconds. 3 things that most enrage me, starting now.
The third thing that most enrages me is the trio in whose presence I find myself now. Because, how foolish people are to assume that I'm talking about the attractive boys who are on the panel. Oh, no. I'm referring to 3 people who are sitting in the audience.
Julian challenge.
Was it repetition of people?
Well,
Yes, indeed, yes. Yes, good to hear from you, Julian. Right.
I don't know that it was, because I think I referred to 3 boys, but I don't mind. I like to hear Julian.
You can't creep and crawl like that. Right, Julian, you have a correct challenge. You have a point, thank goodness, and there we are. 7 seconds available, and you start now.
Incontinent ducks. If I leave my French windows open, they mince into the house and plop on the carpet.
So Julian Clary was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now in second place alongside Gyles. Tony's still out in the lead, and Julian, actually, it's your turn to begin, and we'd like you to begin on this subject here, my Nan. Tell us something more about that subject in this game, starting now.
My Nan was called Elizabeth and lived on the Isle of Wight, which is where all Nans should live. But she had a secret life as a pole dancer. Once the night started, she would creep out the back door and make her way to this club where she would swivel and gyrate, and then she'd take her teeth out and do something unspeakable with a biscuit, and people would come for an awful long way just to see this exciting entertainment, and I never knew about this. None of the family did. It wasn't until she passed away, and then we got a phone call from her boss saying, "Is Lizzie there?" And I've got the grease ready, and well, we had to do a bit of investigation work, as you can understand. She was also a marvellous knitter, and I won't tell you where she put her ball of wool. And I've got a lovely scarf which still smells of my Nan. She was a marvellous person with twinkly eyes, one of which was green and the other purple.
Oh, Paul, you've got him in 1 second.
Oh, no!
You don't win friends that way. So
I think there's a gas leak.
So I have to take a challenge. What was it?
Repetition of zoological.
You're being very sporting so that Julian can have it back again and go for the last thing. Right. An incorrect challenge, Julian. So you have 1 second to go on.
Perhaps you feel sorry about booing me now.
Yeah, you should cheer him
as
now,
I sit here mentally counting the seconds go by so I can judge 59 exactly. Oh, I'm giving my secrets away.
Julian, 1 second to go on my Nan, starting now.
Her rocking.
So you win for 59 seconds, which is brilliant, but then Paul gave you a very false challenge there deliberately, so you went for the other second. So you did get 2 more points in that round. Well done, and you're now in the lead alongside Tony Hawks. Tony, it's up to you now. What lurks under my bed? 60 seconds starting now.
I've actually got a futon frame, so there isn't much room underneath. So technically, it's the room beneath which lurks under my bed, where I have a new lodger who's a Colombian 26-year-old ice skater who's going to... This is true. Sounds like I've just made it up to try and get attention. But in fact, there's truth in this. Very nice young man, hasn't been there very long, so I have to talk about him for a few seconds more in order to complete the brief I've been given.
Julian challenge.
Could I have his phone number?
It's things like that, Julian, that I think deserve bonus points. Because you haven't got a challenge when the rules have just been made, have you?
No, I want to hear more.
I think he has, and the word is deviation. Well, did we hear how old the boy was?
He's 26, he's 26.
Yes, ideal.
That's fine. Well, can I come too?
Bonus point to Julian, and you incorrectly challenged Tony, so you keep the subject, and there are 30 seconds starting now.
I don't know whether he'll start doing it, but I imagine he'll practice in the privacy of the small chamber which I have allotted to him for the rental involved.
Paul challenge.
Before we completely lapse into the 18th century, how is he going to practice his ice skating in this very small room?
I got the impression he was doing it in a chamber pot.
I beg your pardon? Well, who gave you that impression? Somebody in 1948? What are you talking about?
Well, he's got
on this chamber.
He's got exercises that he can actually do inside for this building.
But that's not really practicing. It's not practicing, is it? Well, that's training. Difference between training and practicing.
Well,
no, Paul,
he's
you're
Colombian, so he says practicing.
Right, that doesn't matter.
Well, when this programme goes out, you can tell him he was wrong.
Yeah. So, Paul, correct
Yes.
challenge, and you have 19 seconds. Tell me what lurks under my bed starting now.
Is this Colombian? He lives underneath Tony Hawk's. He comes round and tells me about it every night. I practice ice skating, but I tell him he's training. And so we get on very well indeed. I opened up a little bottle of sherry.
Tony challenge.
He's Colombian, not Italian.
Very similar accent.
But you never established you didn't have an Italian accent.
No, I didn't. Well, like an idiot.
Yeah. No, you just mentioned the ice skating.
Yeah, right. That's a difficult one to judge on.
Isn't it,
because, yes, it was he was just doing a foreign voice and to convey that...
Yes, I'll let him have it, but I'll have the bonus point for the challenge that you liked.
So, you've had a benefit of the doubt. I give the benefit of the doubt to Paul on this occasion. 9 seconds. Paul, what lurks under my bed starting now?
Freeman, Hardy and Willis are 3 of the things I really don't like. And I keep them under my bed along with chickens, soda siphons and kittens.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point for doing so. He's moved into second place, and he also begins the next round. Oh, Paul, conventional good looks. 60 seconds. Starting now.
Conventional good looks must be a terrible thing to have. If you are someone like me, I don't particularly possess conventional good looks. No, please don't argue with me. I know what I'm saying. I'm rather more of the sort of famous film star of the 1920s. Someone like Roman Navarro. What a tremendous writer and actor he was. He had a profile. The great side of his face was seen on billboards and film...
Julian challenge.
The great side of his face.
Well, I just said profile, you see, so I couldn't say profile again.
I know, but I think it was a bit of
It was a bit ugly, wasn't it?
I'd say deviation.
bit ungrammatical, the great side.
Yes.
Yes.
I couldn't think of another
the
word.
side of his face. It couldn't have been the great side of his face.
No.
It was the side of his face which was great.
Yes.
Would have been better.
Yes.
So I'm giving Julian...
If only I'd spent more time thinking about this.
So, benefit of the doubt to Julian.
Yeah.
34 seconds, Julian. Conventional good looks starting now.
Claire Sweeney has conventional good looks, and much good has it done her. I think it's hard to describe what is conventional good looks. 2 eyes, roughly equidistant above the nose, and a mouth. And apart from that, it's a free-for-all, isn't it? Conventional good looks is an outdated phrase. No one knows what it means, and we're just not particularly interested. I like quirky, conventional good looks. Say Jeremy Kyle. He's a man who gets me going of a morning, and
So Julian kept going in some strange way until the whistle went. and gain that extra point for doing so, and he's now taken the lead just ahead of Tony Hawks. Then comes Paul Merton, and then Gyles Brandreth in that order. And Gyles, we'd like you to begin the next round. I know you know something about this subject. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote. Can you tell us that in this game, starting now?
My favourite Oscar Wilde quote. Never commit murder. A gentleman should never do anything he cannot talk about at dinner.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of never.
Never.
Oh, very good,
Yes.
very good.
Well, strictly speaking, isn't this Oscar Wilde's fault? Shouldn't Oscar Wilde be taking a point off him? Take a point off him.
But he did repeat never.
Yes.
He repeated the never.
No.
It might have been in the quote, but it was also outside the quote.
Yeah.
And in just a minute, you can't do that.
No.
So, Tony, you have another point and you have 52 seconds. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote, starting now.
I am so clever sometimes that I don't understand a single word I'm saying. That is not me speaking there, rather Oscar Wilde, for that is one of his quotes, and there were so many. What a talented man he was, and in many ways sad too that he should die in a hotel in Paris, impoverished, miserable, when he was gifted in... I haven't finished it.
Tony, you challenged yourself.
I challenged him.
Oh.
Well, Tony's light came on.
Well, that's what the effect is.
So what's your challenge, Gyles?
The challenge was the hesitation and also, earlier on in the quotation, the repetition of the word I, but I realised it was Oscar Wilde's fault. The quotation that he gave us contained a word repeated twice.
I know, but it doesn't matter. That would have been repetition.
Yeah, well, that was repetition, but I'm giving
We usually allow our I because it's...
Yes, of course, that's why I moved on.
Virtually impossible
So that's why I
speak.
waited.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Tony. Tony, 25 seconds. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote, starting now.
Once more onto the breach, dear friends, or close up the walls, was not his quotation. It was, in fact, Shakespeare, who didn't know him and is therefore
Paul
irrelevant.
Challenge.
Is it once more into the breach or once more unto the breach? It's once more into, isn't
It
it?
doesn't really matter. He's quoting Shakespeare, not Oscar Wilde. So I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say that he's deviating from the subject. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote. He's gone into Shakespeare,
Yeah, he
hasn't
has,
he? Right. 16 seconds.
That's rattled your cage.
16 seconds, Paul. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote, starting now.
It was to the hat-check girl at the Savoy. Thank you, he said. And there's been many times in my life when I've used exactly those same words to find myself in a difficult...
Gyles Challenge.
In Oscar Wilde's time, there was no such thing as a hat-check girl. The word was coined in 1922.
What? There was no such thing as a hat-check girl. What, people just threw their hats into the street? Well, I won't see that again.
I think what Gyles is trying to convey is that wasn't the phrase that was used.
No, he said thank you to the hat-check girl.
Yeah, but they
who didn't exist before 1923.
No, the girls existed, but
Did
not
they?
the phrase to which to describe them.
The staff there in the cloakroom were male staff at the Savoy in the 1880s and 1890s.
Oh, well, so you're thinking of Savoy in London. I see his mistake. I was referring, of course, to the New York Savoy, but of course, if you didn't know that, then I kind of...
They're all so clever and sharp there. I don't know where to go, but Paul, I gave you the benefit of the doubt last
really?
time on the quote. So the benefit goes to this Gyles on this occasion.
Absolutely.
Gyles, you have 6 seconds. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote, starting now.
After a good meal, one can forgive anyone, even family.
Paul Challenge.
This was long before people had good meals. The first decent breakfast was 1904.
Paul, very clever and a well-received round of laughter and applause, so you get a bonus point for that. But Gyles was interrupted, so he gets another point and continues for 4 seconds only. My favourite Oscar Wilde quote, starting now.
Oscar Fingal of the hearty Wills Wilde came from a witty family. His brother once opined...
So it's all very close, isn't it? Gyles was then speaking as the whistle went, and with others in the round, he's still in 4th place, but only 1 point separates them all. Then there's Paul 1 point ahead, and then 2 points ahead, Julian, Clary, and Tony Hawks equally.
It's a needle match.
It's Radio 4, the passions are rising, right?
Yes.
Right, so Julian, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now, oh, lovely one, breakfast in bed. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
There's nothing nicer than a tray brought up to my room with soldiers on. My mouth waters as I hear the footsteps, and it sets you up for the day, puts a smile on your face, but you must remember to wipe your mouth afterwards. Breakfast in bed is something I've done since I was a teenager. I think I was rather spoilt by my mother, but she insisted that the best way for me to give myself brain power was breakfast in bed. A little grapefruit, perhaps, with all the segments separated for me by my adoring parents, and then some muesli, which slips down and keeps you regular. Breakfast in bed is a tradition in our family. We all have it. Who starts the whole chain going is anyone's guess. I think the woman next door would come in with something in a glass for my father. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely organic because he would smile all
Paul, you're not going to believe this.
Oh, no.
You got in a game with 1 second to go.
And for what reason have you interrupted my flow?
So what was your challenge, Paul?
Well, you paused.
Oh, I was breathing.
If you could breathe for 1 more second, it'd be making a much nicer atmosphere for me and everybody else.
I think he said zoological twice as well, actually.
Yeah, they were very generous with you, Julian, and you did pause a bit. So,
I know.
Paul, have a correct challenge. Breakfast in bed, 1 second, starting now.
Audrey Hepburn has it in Tiffany's.
So Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And as we go into the final round, let me tell you that Gyles is training just a little.
Oh, no.
No, but your contribution's been invaluable. You're a few points behind Tony Hawkes, who's in second place, and 1 point only ahead are equal leaders Paul Merton and Julian Clary. So, the audience are with us. Good. Paul, it's your turn to begin, so... What are you two doing over there?
Julian just stroked my thigh. What did you have on your hand?
Well, it was wet. And I didn't know where to wipe it. I can't reach anyone else. I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
Haven't you brought a handkerchief with you, Julian?
It's too late now.
Paul, we'd like you to take this.
I don't think I'm ready to continue. I want counselling.
Shall I sit on my hands?
Yo, that'll make a change. No, okay.
Right.
I'm ready.
You're ready, are you?
Yes.
There are 60 seconds.
Yes.
And the subject is the best way to make up. 60 seconds starting now.
A gentle caress of the inner thigh while appearing on a Radio 4.
Julian challenge.
It wasn't the inner thigh, it was the outer thigh.
It was the inner thigh. I'm not built as other men.
Julian, even if it was the outer thigh on the occasion which happened just then, the point is he can still say that is the best way to make up.
Yeah.
I would have got to the inner thigh if I'd had that.
I think we'll pursue this later.
Well then, will we? Have I not got some say in this before I'm turned into some sacrificial victim of the panel and the chairman?
I love that. Sacrificial? A sacrificial victim?
Sacrificial. I can't speak. I'm robbed of speech. It's sexual
You've got the
harassment.
subject still. You've got another point.
All right.
You're moving forward.
Yes.
56 seconds.
Good.
The best way to make up, starting now.
We'd had a terrible caravan holiday in Rhyl, and then he turned to me and said, you know, I can never forget that view from the top of Snowdon. I said, come here. We kissed each other between the Welsh valleys, and then I felt something I'd never had in my hand before. It was a National Express ticket to go to Plymouth Argyle. And I did. And I went to the football team that plays there.
Tony challenge.
Has he had long enough to talk roughly on the subject?
What is the subject? I'm just panicking. I've got no idea what the subject is.
You started off by saying the best way to make up.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That was a long way from that.
Yeah, I know you were. So, Tony, correct challenge, and you have 33 seconds. The best way to make up, starting now.
Flowers are often abused by men who treat their women abysmally and then turn up thinking
Paul,
this
challenge.
will be...
Deviation.
Paul, why?
Flowers aren't often abused by men. What nonsense.
Well, no,
No wonder you were told to leave the park.
No, Tony, they're not abused by
No.
men. Men often use flowers to make up. They take a lovely bunch of flowers.
My point was that they abuse this because they actually are using it to get out of terrible holes, and it isn't really justified to use
You
flowers.
should have said it in the
this
show, but it doesn't make sense now.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Oh, okay.
Paul, no, yours was a correct challenge, Paul. We're back with you. The best way to make up, 26 seconds starting now.
A gentle kiss behind the ear.
Tony challenge.
I think he said gentle before.
You did.
Yeah.
Yes, a gentle before. That's well listened, Tony.
Too
so you've got
gentle,
it back
yes.
again. 23 seconds, the best way to make up. Tony, starting now.
A gentle kiss behind the ear is a horrendous way if you...
Gyles challenge.
Deviation of the English language, horrendous, not a word. Whatever the pronunciation.
Tremendous. He said horrendous.
Horrendous.
Right, all right. Deviation from English as we understand it and speak it. 19 seconds with you, Gyles. The best way to make up, starting now.
The best way to make up is to sit in front of the mirror and look at yourself solidly and patiently. Then to take the mascara and lift one eyebrow and apply it gently but firmly over the top, touching the eyelashes as you do so. Then you take the back of the neck, find the sellotape, and...
I must tell our listeners that Gyles was actually demonstrating what he was talking about there, and it gives a very interesting image of how he lives at home. And Gyles, you were speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and I said this was to be the final round, and I have to tell you, in spite of that, you're still in fourth place. But don't worry, you contributed wonderfully, yes. They all do. And there's hardly any points separating any of them. And 1 point ahead was Julian Clary, and 1 point ahead of him was Tony Hawks, and 1 point ahead of him was Paul Merton. Very even contest, but Paul has the most points, and we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only means to say thank you to these four fine players and amusing and witty, clever players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Gyles Brandreth and Tony Hawks. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's blown the whistle beautifully when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're also indebted to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. So from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our delightful panel, thank you for tuning in, but remember, be with us the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute. Yes.
And you can join Nicholas at the same time next week when the panellists will be Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Jenny Eclair and Graham Norton.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners around the world, and also to welcome to the show four exciting, talented, clever individuals who play this game quite frequently, and they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Josie Lawrence. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Sitting beside me is Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me with a score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, oh, what an interesting subject. If I were a superhero, tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
If I were a superhero, I suppose the power I would like to have above all others would be invisibility. To be invisible would be Josie,
you challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, hesitation, repetition of be, and all those other things, but it's...
Still a very nice man, though.
I know, but we can't have that sort of charity in this show.
We can't.
And so, Josie, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. And you take over the subject. And there are 49 seconds available. If I were a superhero, starting now.
If I were a superhero, I would like to have the power to go zoom and just stop things and then go in and change them around into something else that would please me more. I'll give you an example. I was watching the telly with my friend Sandy, and I told her about this power I'd like to have. She didn't realise I was sitting next to the remote.
Jenny, challenge.
She did say power twice.
Yes, that's right.
I'm so sorry, Josie, because it was a lovely story and I was really looking forward to it.
Was power not in the title?
No, it was just if I were a superhero.
If I were a superhero.
It's true,
Yes.
you're quite right, Jenny. Carry on.
Well done, me.
So, Jenny, you have a correct challenge. You have a point and you take over the subject. And there are 29 seconds available. If I were a superhero, starting now.
If I were a superhero, I wouldn't wear a cape. What a nonsense article of clothing, getting trapped in car doors and lifts, such like. I would don a sensible pair of running shoes, as superheroes often have to go hither and thither very quickly indeed. My power would be discretion, which is odd for a woman. And people would tell me their secrets and I wouldn't let on. I wonder how long that would last.
So, Jenny speaking as the whistle went, and in this game, just to remind you, whoever is talking as the whistle goes gets an extra point. So, Jenny, you are in the lead at the end of that round. And we'd like you to begin the next round, because I think it's been chosen for you. Swimming in the sea. Will you tell us something about that in this game starting now?
I do like to swim in the sea. The other day, I plunged off Camber Sands. Some people...
Josie, challenge.
Hesitation.
That was a hesitation, yes.
I was about to talk about my swimsuit, and just the thought of it upset me. So it's a good job we didn't go there.
No, it doesn't
Got
matter.
a lovely little figure.
So, there are 54 seconds still available, Josie. Swimming in the sea, starting now.
There's a wonderful island in the Maldives called Biadu. I am such a brilliant swimmer and...
Graham, challenge.
It's just showing off.
Maldives.
Camber Sands.
Yeah.
That's more like it.
I like it. I'm down with the people.
I know they listen all over the world, but seriously.
I can tell it's the glamorous lifestyle I lead.
I say deviation
What do you mean, do you know?
from humanity.
Oh, shut up. They're just jealous.
No, we loved hearing from you, Graham. So, but I'm sorry, she wasn't deviating. So she has another point. She has 48 seconds. Swimming in the sea, Josie, starting now.
You can cut a little coral hole.
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of little.
Yes, you did say it was a lovely little island there. In the Maldives. So, Graham, a correct challenge, and you have a point, of course. You have 46 seconds still available. Swimming in the sea, starting now.
There's a lot of fuss about pollution these days. But I remember as a child, when you came home from the beach, you were covered in great big oil slicks.
Josie, challenge.
Sorry, he did say slicks. Or is that me being finickety?
That's
Yes.
Irish for oil slick.
I think it's a bit pernickety.
It's an
I'm
old
sorry.
slick.
Carry on.
Yes. No, we all knew what he meant.
Yes.
Right. So you have incorrect challenge, Graham. Another point to you. 35 seconds available. Swimming in the sea, starting now.
Swimming in the sea is a nice idea, but unless you're the sort of crazy rich individual who can swan off to the Maldives, the rest of us are trapped here in Britain, where it's quite grim, and I've noticed always very cold. If God wanted us to swim in the sea, surely he'd have made it a little bit warmer. Fish are ugly. Who wants to join them to play? Cattle, they're attractive. Go walking in a field. This could be deviation, but I'm going to keep going.
Oh, you challenge.
Deviation. So talking about walking in a field as opposed to swimming in the sea.
Right, well done, Paul. You come in there with 6 seconds to go. That is the game. 6 seconds, Paul. Swimming in the sea, starting now.
The first time I swam in the sea, it was at Clacton. I was about 5 years old. My mother looked at me. She said, "Swim towards..."
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. They're all equal now. No, Josie's 1 point ahead of the other three. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, the best thing about going to the hairdresser. 60 seconds starting now.
The best thing about going to the hairdresser is the whole caboodle. I love the experience. My hairdressers are quite close to me, so it's only walking distance. When I get in there, they say, "Hey, Josie, how are the cats?" Actually, no, they don't say that. They say, "Hey, Josie, how's that?"
You can't repeat what people say.
No, I can't.
No, and Paul, you got in
I was
first.
telling the truth.
Yes, the truth is sometimes repetitious.
And,
Hey, Josie was repeated.
yeah, right.
Yes.
The best thing about going to the hairdressers is with you, Paul.
Paul doesn't go to the hairdressers. He's now giving me a look.
I don't get my hair cut in Disneyland, that's for sure.
How do you know he hasn't spent ages at the hairdressers trying to get that particular look?
Well, this look.
Yes.
Have you? Have I?
Yes, have you? I don't know.
Why?
I was suggesting that you might have done.
No.
No, right, okay. Paul, you've got in with the correct challenge. You have the best thing about going to the hairdresser. 44 seconds starting now.
The best thing about going to the hairdresser, particularly ladies' hairdressers in the 1960s, was the overwhelming smell of peroxide that used to come through the door. And immediately, I didn't know what it was. I would say to my mother, "What is that curious aroma that emanates from those huge things they put on your head?" And she told me what it was, but she'd also...
Jenny Challenge.
She and she.
Yes, well, a lot of she's...
Sorry, I was being horribly pernickety, Paul, and I do apologise. I'll only do that once. Oh, look, he's winning already, probably.
No, actually, you're winning, Jenny. And you've now gone further into the lead with another point, and 26 seconds on the best thing about going to the hairdresser starting now.
I love going to the hairdressers because when I get my hair bleached...
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of I.
Paul, that was correct challenge. So
It was. Very boring one,
Yeah.
but correct anyway.
It underlies the fact that if you get pernickety, you're going to get retaliated. So, Paul, you've got the subject back. 23 seconds. The best thing about going to the hairdresser starting now.
The best thing about going to the hairdressers for me is to find somebody who doesn't talk to me. I hate that chat about, "Have you been anywhere for your holidays? Isn't it nice for this time of year?" Or, "Who do you think's going to marry the prince?"
Jenny Challenge.
Deviation, it is nice for this time of the year. He said, "Is it nice this time of the year?" And, no, I'm sorry, I'll take that one.
So, an incorrect challenge again, Jenny. And, Paul, you have another point. The best thing about going to the hairdresser, and 12 seconds starting now.
The best thing about going to the hairdressers undoubtedly is the free access to public radio. It's turned on the wireless in the corner and you find yourself hearing all sorts of news from all sorts...
Jenny Challenge.
All sorts of news.
Yes. Deviation
from normal language.
Or English as we understand it.
Absolutely.
And, Jenny, you've got in with 1 second to go. You've got another point, but you haven't got many friends in the audience.
I don't need them.
Right. And you have 1 second on best thing about going to the hairdresser, starting now.
Bleaching my hair.
So, Jenny, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. She's now equal with Paul Merton in the lead. The other two are just behind them. And Graham Norton, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, pocket money. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Pocket money is very important for young children because it teaches them a very valuable life lesson, and that is most people are richer than them. They can't buy very much with their pocket money because it's about, well, when I was a child, it was about 50p. I said about twice. There you go.
Josie Challenge.
He said was about twice.
Yes, he
It
did.
was
Yes,
about
he-
repetition.
Yes, I did. It was terrible.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I feel
So,
awful.
Josie,
Nice
you
shot.
have the subject. You have 42 seconds. Pocket money starting now.
When I was little, my father was hard of hearing, so when I got...
Graham Challenge.
What?
I think she was trying to say hard of hearing.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
I did, I burped slightly as I said hearing.
I know. I think we understood what you were trying to say, so maybe...
And anyway, he was Cockney, so he was hard of hearing, wasn't he?
Yes.
He came from the Midlands, didn't he?
I'm foreigner. I'm foreign.
No, it's a sharp one. So, benefit of the doubt.
Oh, bless you.
And so if it's against Graham, I try and redress the balance later by giving a benefit of the doubt to Graham if I can. But 39 seconds are with you, Josie, on pocket money starting now.
So, when I asked him if I could have some pocket money, he gave me a sculpture of a very tiny French impressionist to keep in my pocket. This was Monet, of course. My mother then gave me threepence. Can you remember those old coins? I ran down to the tuck shop and decided to buy myself a lucky bag of sweets. I used to love sucking on a spaceship. That's not a euphemism. A spaceship with a piece... Oh,
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of spaceship.
Yes. 12 seconds it's now available, Paul, for you to tell us something about pocket money starting now.
I remember when I was first given pocket money, round about the age of 11 years old. I think it equated to about 5 shillings a week.
Josie, challenge.
Sorry, there were two abouts there.
Oh, darling. Yes, there were two abouts, weren't there? So, Josie, you have it. We usually let abouts and O's and ums and a go. 5 seconds, pocket money starting now.
Blue Ribbon was my favourite chocolate bar. It cost 2 pence, but I loved it so much that I would...
So Josie Lawrence, speaking as a whistle-weighing, gained that extra point, and with others in the round, she has now taken the lead ahead of Paul, Merton, Jenny, Eclair and Graham Norton in that sequence. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject we now is the perfect excuse. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
The perfect excuse, but it has to be tied in with some period of history. I'm sorry I'm late, I travelled here on the Titanic. Would be a perfect excuse if the year was 1912 and you were trying to explain your absence to your employee, why you had been maybe 3 weeks attending late work when you shouldn't have been. That didn't make any sense, but it doesn't matter. On the other hand...
Graham, challenge.
It matters. I felt it didn't make any sense. It was a deviation from...
Deviation, yes. So you've got him on his deviation, which he admitted before you challenged. But 44 seconds for you, Graham. The perfect excuse starting now.
The perfect excuse, if your doorbell goes and you're not sure who's there, is to put on your coat and then open said gap in your wall. And if it's a welcome visitor, you say, I just got in. If you don't like the person, you reveal that you're just leaving.
Jenny, challenge.
Person and person.
There were 2 persons then.
Whatever.
Jenny, you have 28 seconds on the perfect excuse starting now.
If you are a woman, the perfect excuse for your male boss is, I'm very sorry, I have to visit the gynecologist. He will not ask any further questions. Another great excuse for doing absolutely nothing is the purchase of an iPad. Ever since I've had one of those gadgets, me has done nothing. Gaga.
Josie, you challenge.
Me thinks she made a mistake.
Yes, grammatically it was deviation, wasn't it?
I went horribly remedial, and I'm glad you stopped me. Thank you,
cute,
Josie.
though.
No, it wasn't cute. It was horrible.
It wasn't horrible, it was entertaining. And you've got in, Josie, with 4 seconds to go on the perfect excuse starting now.
The perfect excuse is only excusable if people believe you.
So Josie Lawrence was again speaking as the whistle went and increased her lead at the end of the round. Jenny, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is Doodles. I don't know whether you are a doodler or not, but talk on the subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I am a doodler. Even playing just a minute, I have a pen, paper, doodling away, sometimes squares.
Paul, challenge.
Deviation, the paper's completely blank. There's not a single doodle on it.
That is a doodle, ladies and gentlemen. It is a tiny doodle, but it is a doodle.
I think it'd be a good idea to show it to the chairman. I can hardly see it.
It's a minute doodle.
No, I wouldn't interpret that as a doodle. I don't know. No, it's too late now.
What about that doodle?
It's too late now, darling. You did make out that you were doodling, and you didn't. And Paul has drawn our attention to the fact, I know this is radio and you can't see what's going on, but it's... but I have to be fair with the obvious visual rules that must apply. And Paul, you have 53 seconds on Doodles starting now.
It's amazing the people that aren't locked up in psychiatric institutions, isn't it? when you think of all the various individuals walking around London. I often doodle in front of myself a little piece of paper here and a drawing. I see somebody in the front row and I just do their eyes and their hair and then their brows.
Jenny, challenge.
3 theirs.
Well, they were rather close together,
Yes,
but... 37 seconds, Jenny, on Doodles, starting now.
If you're a famous artist, you can get away without paying for your dinner by doodling on the serviette. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for stand-up comics. Scribbling a joke on a napkin will not cut the mustard at a certain... yes.
Josie, challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, I would interpret that as hesitation. Josie, so you now have the subject, and you have 21 seconds. Doodles, starting now.
Doodles are supposed to be a kind of rumination of your inner psyche. I doodle a lot when I'm on the phone to people if I have a pen, and it's usually a doodle of a snail or a flower. What does this mean, I hear you ask, Graham? Well, I shall tell you.
Graham, challenge.
I said nothing. Also, while we're talking, is a flower? That's a picture of a flower. That's a drawing,
No, I'll
not a
show you
doodle.
what I do. I
don't want to see it. That's a flower. That's a picture of a flower.
I've never known so much visual work in a radio show before. Graham, I said if I had a chance to give you the benefit of the doubt, as it was against Josie last time, you have it this time. You have the correct challenge. And you've only 2 seconds to go on Doodles, starting now.
Bailey is my Labradoodle. Do you see what I've done there?
Well, it's an extremely close contest this week, if you're interested in that, but the points are that Josie is still in the lead, just ahead of Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair, equal in second place, and then Graham Norton, 1 point behind. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a nice subject for you. Florence Nightingale. Tell us something about that great woman in this game, starting now.
I played Florence Nightingale in a school play once, so I know a tad about her. Florence's birthplace was indeed Florence, and funnily enough, her sister, Frances, was born in Italy. Now, from a very...
Paul, challenge.
Very, very.
Yes.
Very, very, yes, we can't let those go.
It's true.
And so, Paul, you've got the subject of Florence Nightingale, and you have 43 seconds starting now.
She had this protuberance on her face. She was known as the lady with the lump. And in the Crimean War, she would go around and she would say to the soldiers, "How are you feeling today? You're looking a little bit under the weather." And she would administer her balm, soothing calmness, and her nursing skills would give her great renown and fame throughout her entire life. And when she retired, people were so grateful that she'd actually looked at the core of nursing and seen how...
Josie, challenge.
Nursing was
Yes,
twice.
talk about nursing.
Sorry,
Yes,
Paul.
right.
Sorry?
No to apologise, the correct challenge, darling. 16 seconds. Josie, back with you. Florence Nightingale, starting now.
During the Crimean War, she was indeed known as the woman with the lantern. She used this on her rounds because, if not, it would be too dark and she would trip over people, I guess. When she got back from the war, she set up a wonderful establishment to help...
So Josie Lawrence was again speaking as a whistle went. Gain of an extra point has increased her lead. And Graham, we're with you to begin, and the subject is how to scare a small child. I do think that's some weird subjects, don't they? Graham, off you go, 60 seconds, starting now.
When it comes to children, it's important to remember that they're just like people, only smaller. So if you want to scare one, say 3 or 4 years old, just let them watch a video of The Exorcist or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's quite hard to say. And they will be terrified out of their wits. I imagine you'll hear them screaming all the way down the street. The social worker...
Paul, challenge.
Well, it was a repetition of...
That's a medical condition, Paul.
That is a medical condition. If it's a medical condition, I withdraw my challenge. Is it a medical condition?
No, it isn't, because in this just a minute, it was a vocal sound. You know, and...
You've got it as well. It is a medical condition.
His Graham Norton impressions are getting marvellous.
Yeah.
It's uncanny. It's like looking into a mirror. Only if I own that jacket.
Anyway, Paul, correct challenge. You have 37 seconds. How to scare a small child starting now.
Auntie Jenny's coming to see you.
Graham, new challenge.
I'll go with hesitation.
Do you know, I don't know how you spotted that.
I have played the game before, Nicholas, actually. Yeah.
So, yes, a definite hesitation, and 30 seconds are available. How to scare a small child, Graham, starting now.
You could go up to children and say, now, I don't want to upset you, but your parents are trying to sell you. That can often make them cry. How we laughed. They ran away going, Mommy, Daddy, are you trying to sell me? For some... Oh, I said that already.
Jenny challenge.
Double sell.
Yeah, double sell. Right. So, Jenny, you've got in on this subject. How to scare a small child. 17 seconds starting now.
I once bumped into an old boyfriend who was with his small child and said to that kiddie, I could have been your mother. Should have seen Brat's face. Oh, it fell to pieces. Screaming down the street. The other thing you can do is say, I am the bogey.
So Jenny Eclair was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's equal with Paul Merton in second place. They're a point or two behind Josie. Lawrence is still in the lead, and Graham Norton is bringing up the rear magnificently.
Too easy.
Whatever you do...
He's still doing his Graham Norton impression.
Whatever you do is magnificent, Graham. Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is the biggest cheapskate I know. 60 seconds starting now.
The biggest cheapskate I know isn't here tonight, but sometimes that individual does play just a minute. I won't identify them as either a man or a woman, but let me give you one example of how cheap this individual can be. Well, actually, I can't, because if I give you some clues, you will be able to work out the exact... It's a bit like one of those super injunctions. I should give you the initials. Perhaps that way you won't be able to... If I initialise the individual, you might not be able to...
Jenny challenge.
Couple of individuals.
Yes, so more than one individual there. So, Jenny, you've cleverly got in, not cleverly, but quite naturally. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I meant that you were clever to be the first to get in.
Yeah.
But
Thank you, Nicholas.
Yes. 34 seconds. The biggest cheapskate I know starting now.
I think it might be my mother, who is the only woman I know to have cut up her own wedding dress to make a lampshade. She has also had the same piece of tin foil for 35 years. Another contender is my sister, who doesn't believe in central heating or tumble dryers. Consequently, her towels remove your skin, as they're all horrid and scratchy. I can't bear cheapskates. There's nothing worse than being out with a bloke who will not open his wallet for you. How rude is that?
So, Jenny Eclair cleverly get going until the whistle went and gained that extra point. And I've just been told we're going into the final round. And, Jenny, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is, which you require in this game, don't you? Quick thinking. 60 seconds starting now.
Unfortunately, I am not a quick thinker, which is a disappointment. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. Disadvantage, yes.
It doesn't matter. Josie, you challenge.
Well, she said disappointment, but I knew she meant to say disadvantage.
But she hesitated, didn't she?
Yeah.
Well done, Josie. Right.
I love him.
55 seconds on the quick thinking with you, Josie, starting now.
If somebody says to me in a panic, quick, think of something, I immediately think of a monkey singing that old music.
Paul challenge.
Well, it's a bit harsh, but it is a repetition of think.
Yes, you see, thinking's on the card, which
Yes,
you can repeat as often as
it's
you like.
all right.
47 seconds, Paul, on quick thinking starting now.
Formula One drivers have to have very quick thinking as their car approaches the bends of those various tracks you see around the world. They are very dedicated...
Josie challenge.
There's two berries.
Yes, they are very well done. Well done. Listen, Josie. 38 seconds. Quick thinking starting now.
You have to have a lot of quick thinking, especially on panel shows, because if you don't think quickly, then this kind of thing happens.
Paul challenged again.
Oh, it's repetition of think.
Think, you see. Thinking's on the card.
But I timed it, don't you see?
Yeah, timed it beautifully and got a nice laugh.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, it was incorrect. So Paul's got in again with 31 seconds on quick thinking starting now.
One way to ward off Alzheimer's, apparently, is to do crossword puzzles. Stephen Fry swears by the Sunday Times version. I, myself, like to have a go at the Guardian quick one on the back page of the G2 part of that newspaper. A good way to make sure that you are quick thinking is to test your various verbal skills against other members of the entertainment profession on a popular radio show such as this called Just a Minute, which is being broadcast here on Radio 4. And...
Graham challenge.
Repetition of radio.
Yes, radio programme, Radio 4.
Oh, yes, yes.
So well listen, Graham. And you cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go on quick thinking starting now.
Quick thinking is terribly important.
So, Graham Norton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's finished up then only just in fourth place. No, it's in third place, actually, because there's a second equal. Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair are equal in second place. Out in the lead, a few points ahead of them all, was Josie Lawrence. So we say, Josie, you are our winner this week. So it remains for to say thank you to these four fine, challenging players of the game. Paul Merton, Jenny Eclair, Josie Lawrence, Graham Norton. We thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel, goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. Be with us the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the programme four exciting, intelligent, intellectual players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sue Perkins, and seated on my left, Fee Glover and Stephen Fry. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And once again, I'm going to ask these four players individually to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. So let's begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, oh, what a lovely subject. Marbles. Tell us something about marbles in this game, starting now.
Marbles, the very word takes me back to the playground. I was 8 years old, holding these spherical glass objects in my hand with little bits of plastic colouring inside, I seem to remember. Sometimes green, occasionally yellow, perhaps a combination of the two. I don't remember blue.
Stephen challenge.
I think there were two remembers, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah. He did. He remembered too much. Yes, right.
It's almost as if I'm playing the game according to the rules.
You were, and you had a correct challenge, so you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, Stephen, and there are 43 seconds available, starting now.
It's an anagram of amblers, which is completely irrelevant. And I suppose...
Sue challenge.
Deviation. By his own admission, it's completely irrelevant.
In one sense, it's irrelevant, but in the other sense, when you're trying to keep going in just a minute, it's not entirely irrelevant, is it? If you want to take the word and juggle with it, which Stephen did, I think on this occasion, Stephen, I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Say it was an ink. Was it a cheer or a boo? And so you have another point, and I can redress the balance later if I can, Sue, for you. There are 39 seconds still available. Marbles starting now.
Michelangelo Buonarroti, one of the great sculptors, of course, of the Renaissance era, made his great sculptures out of often Carrara marble, a very hard-to-quarry granite. And the David, which is currently on view, of course, in many different forms, but the original outside, oh dear.
Oh, yeah.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh,
Well, it was very, very good, wasn't it? But it was an err.
There was a definite error there, yes,
No
a definite
question.
error. So, Paul, a correct challenge. You've got marbles back with you. 20 seconds available starting now.
Remembering my past, it seems unusual that I was once a participant in a game of marbles.
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of game.
Yes, you talked about your
yes.
game of marbles when you were at school earlier on. Right.
yes.
Sue, you've got in with 13 seconds to go. Oh, we're going to have a reaction to every challenge. They're going to be exhausted at the end, aren't they? 13 seconds, Sue, on marbles, starting now.
After removing the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon in Athens, they discovered they were notoriously difficult to roll and therefore useless in the game for which they were deemed to be fit for purpose. They should have stuck with the smaller glass ones.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Sue Perkins, and so she's got 2 points, so has Stephen. Paul's got 1, and Fee Glover's yet to score. She's yet to speak. Actually, this is the first time Fee Glover's played the game. So...
No pressure.
There's no pressure.
No pressure at all.
But you're surrounded by friends, Fee, and the subject is being treated like a princess. Interesting subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I would very much like to be treated like a princess on a daily basis in going about my business in my household. I like to imagine that I might wake up on my 800-thread, high-definition linen sheets, and somehow 6 beautiful, charming Oompa Loompas would bring to me a glass of warmed chocolate. I would then step out of my delightful bed and put on my alpaca slippers and glide my way off. For goodness sake, somebody, I can't get any further in my day.
No, the first time playing the game, that's a wonderful start.
I want a high-definition bed.
So do I.
So, Sue, what was your challenge?
Hesitation.
Yes, we have a hesitation for that. So you went for 30 seconds, Fee, well done. Sue, you got in with 30 seconds to go, and it's being treated like a princess starting now.
Modern princesses are treated somewhat differently from the fairy tale. Were I to attain such a glorious role in the monarchy, my gown would need to be accessorised with gaffer tape for fear I might say something untowards about the royal ones. It is essential you appear demure, but ultimately silent, a mere appendage to the great one who, by divine right, rules with a rod of iron and ears like a toby jug. Therefore, it is essential that...
Stephen, challenge.
Wasn't that 2 essentials? I may be quite wrong.
Yes, you did.
I think
Yes,
it
it was
was
essential. You did earlier on. Well done, Stephen. You got in with 3 seconds to go. Correct challenge. Didn't endear yourself to the audience, but doesn't matter. The subject is, oh, this is a nice one for you, Stephen, being treated like a princess. Tell us something about that in 3 seconds, starting now.
Whenever I come on, just a minute, I feel like I'm being treated like a princess.
So, Stephen Fry was then speaking when the whistle went, gained an extra point for doing so. He's increased his lead by 1 at the end of the round, and Sue would like you to begin the next round. Subject I'm sure being chosen for you because I know you're very much into music and the piano, and the subject is my favourite composer. 60 seconds, starting now.
I am torn between Benjamin Britten, the great classical giant of the 20th century, and Mike Batt, composer of the Wombles theme tune. Remember, you're a Womble.
Fee challenged.
Womble?
Yes.
2 Wombles.
Did I say the Wombles and Wombles?
It's the easy one if you haven't played the game before to fall into. So, Sue, incorrect challenge. 49 seconds on my favourite composer, starting now.
Symphonia de Requiem by the aforementioned Ben is a great work of orchestral magnitude. Originally commissioned by the Emperor of Japan, it was deemed unsuitable. It had, after all, a Christian liturgy, and so therefore was useless. However, Mike Batt, who I've already mentioned, and therefore...
Stephen, you challenge first.
I think a repetition of Mike and oddly enough
Yes.
on a bat.
Yes. So you have my favourite composer now, Stephen, and you have 31 seconds starting now.
Well, like Sue, I'm very torn. I suppose on this programme I ought to say Chopin, because he composed the Minute Waltz, which tune has played out towards the world now for 45 years, ushering in 30 minutes of joy and glory and wit, heralded and chaired, of course, by one of the great figures of radio history. So it would be very hard not to pick that Polish genius. However, Richard Wagner has a most special place in my heart, and I know the name itself causes people to sink in horror.
Stephen Fry was in again, speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point has increased his lead slightly at the end of the round. And Stephen, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is, well, it's not a subject, but it's 4 initials, CCTV.
Oh, Lord.
Will you tell us something about CCTV in this game, starting now?
Charles Collingwood transvestite is not the usual meaning of the word. Oh, dear.
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of usual.
Yes, it's not usual. No, that's just... Sue, 54 seconds. You've gone in very rapidly there. Another correct challenge. CCTV, starting now.
CCTV is useful for working out what happened between the hours of drinking 17 pints of alcohol and then the point at which you wake up in the police station. How possible to chart those mysterious lapsed moments without the use of video surveillance? It is an excellent aid memoir for the evenings lost in alcoholic reverie.
Free challenge.
I think you had 2 losts.
Yes, you were lost.
Well, it
for
was
the
a
alcohol.
heavy
You were
night.
lost twice.
And that's why
listen,
CCTV
Fee,
is so useful.
Yes. So, Fee, there are 31 seconds still available. Tell us something about CCTV, starting now.
The worst type of CCTV is the stuff that you get in women's underwear stores, where, if you're in the changing rooms, you can occasionally glance your bottom. There is absolutely no way that any person who isn't a man wants to see their bottom. Bottom.
Sue, challenge.
Double bottom.
Double bottom.
Yes.
And yes, and any person who isn't a man is a woman, but yeah, I mean, you can...
I know, but that's...
Do you think so?
That was good.
Right, correct challenge, Sue. 13 seconds are still available. CCTV, starting now.
I, like Fee, have also unwittingly glanced at my own backside in surveillance camera footage.
Stephen, challenge.
She used the phrase video surveillance in her earlier speech. So surveillance.
Oh, yes, a video surveillance.
That was almost spectral,
Does
that one.
pay to have a good memory in this game. Well done, Stephen. You've got 7 seconds still. CCTV, starting now.
Closed-circuit television is for many the bane of the modern world. Is it possible for movement anywhere? I got all excited.
Yeah, Paul, you challenge.
Slight deviation there. On the,
Yes, I think
Yeah.
movement.
it was
Sadly.
deviation from language as we understand it. And certainly as we speak. Oh, Paul, you got in with half a second to go.
I shall try and use my time wisely.
Well, you've got a round of applause for it anyway. Half a second. CCTV, Paul, starting now.
CC!
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. He's gained an extra point for doing so. He's moved forward a little. He's still in 3rd place behind Sue, Perkins and Stephen Fry in that order. And Fee brings up the rear. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, a nice erudite subject. Aristotle. Tell us something about Aristotle. Oh, it's good to have a bit of a challenge again.
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely, yeah.
It's a bit of an intellectual challenge. Aristotle, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
There was a Monty Python song about various philosophers, and Aristotle featured quite heavily in it. Unfortunately, I can't remember any of the lyrics. If I could, that might help me.
Stephen,
I can help him out there. It's Aristotle. Aristotle was a bugger for the bottle, I seem to remember the line. Yeah. René Descartes was a drunken old fart. Yeah. Heidegger. Yeah, and so on. I was just helping him out. But it's not a challenge.
No. But, Stephen, you interrupted him, so he gets a point.
Well,
for
that's fair
interruption.
enough, I
That's fair enough. So you keep the subject, Paul, and you've got 54 seconds on Aristotle, starting now.
Aristotle, to his mother, was just a nice boy, but to everybody else, he was a very clever man. How lame was was that?
There was a sort of halting. It was a hesitational halt.
Yes. Hesitation. 48 seconds, Sue, on Aristotle's. Starting now.
I believe Aristotle came up with the unity of time and place, in which place have to be located both geographically and temporally. However, my memory is somewhat lacking, so it could have been any one of the major philosophers operating... Philosophers. It's a philosopher who's also a police officer.
Well, he stopped being a philosopher, didn't he, temporarily? So
Well,
I'd say it was a
she
deviation.
deviated from English, as we understand it again.
Yes.
Thank God I don't have to speak about him anymore.
So you've all had a go on the subject, and we've still got 35 seconds left.
Okay.
Fee, Aristotle, 35 seconds, starting now.
Aristotle was a very wise philosopher because one of the main tenets of the things that he believed in were that women had to be happy in order for society to work as a better place. Now, in holding this view, he was slightly out of step with other philosophers, namely Plato, who didn't believe that women's... too many women. Too many women.
Certainly for ancient Greece, I mean...
Yes.
So, Stephen, you've gone in with the correct challenge with 10 seconds on Aristotle, starting now.
Philip of Macedonia employed Aristotle to teach his son Alexander. It may be one of the reasons that that great emperor was such a success. Logic, ethics, poetics, economics...
So Stephen got the extra point again. Speaking as the whistle went, he's increased his lead slightly over Sue Perkins, Paul Merton and Fee Glover in that order. Fee, we'd like you to begin the next round. The best sort of babysitter. Want to tell us something about that in this subject? I think you have some experience, don't you?
Yes.
Starting now.
It would imply from what Nicholas has just said that I am actually a babysitter, in that I have experience in the world of being a babysitter, but I don't. I have...
Who challenged? Sue.
I think I challenged incorrectly because I think babysitter's actually on the
card.
card, so forgive me, it's on the card.
Yeah.
The point is yours.
You can repeat the words or the whole phrase, it doesn't really matter. So, Fee, you have another point.
Good.
You keep the subject, you have 52 seconds. The best sort of babysitter starting now.
Many people would believe that the best sort of babysitter is one who arrives in the evening, allowing you to go and indulge in a grown-up world again, one that doesn't consist of wiping, moisture, strange, nasty, yucky pieces of slime covering every single surface of your household. But in fact, I rather like the best sort of babysitter.
Paul challenge.
Does that include the roof? Every single surface in your household?
They get everywhere, Paul. They get everywhere.
They get everywhere?
Yeah, they do,
Okay.
yeah.
They do get everywhere,
Yes.
right. Well, Paul, we enjoyed your interruption.
Did you?
So I'll give you a bonus point for that
thank
one.
you.
All right? Audience enjoyed it. But incorrect challenge, Fee.
Oh.
So you've still got 31 seconds, and you've still got the subject. Best sort of babysitter starting now.
The best sort of babysitter is the one that you can just call up as an emergency. So you might have 999 on speed dial in case...
This is where
I
experience
gave it
counts.
away.
No, you can't help it, my love, when you haven't played it very often. Paul, I know...
Over-emphatic German.
25 seconds, Paul. The best sort of babysitter starting now.
Well, one that gives you your baby back alive at the end of the evening, I think would be a pretty good recommendation for a start, wouldn't it? Once your child is asleep, then the babysitter can do whatever they like within the bounds of reason. Watch Midsummer Murders or tune into some marvellous drama currently playing on Channel 4 and have the time of their lives while your offspring is gently sipping a piece of beer.
3 chance.
Slipping a piece of beer or sipping a piece of beer?
Sipping
But there was a hesitation,
It went a
wasn't
bit...
Does beer come in pieces now?
Yeah. You get it out of the fridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he did hesitate, didn't he, Fee?
yeah.
I think so.
Yes, I'm glad.
Not in charge.
So you've got another correct challenge and 3 seconds on the best sort of babysitter starting now.
I'd like to book one right away because I will be celebrating if I manage to...
So Fee Glover was then speaking as the whistle went, and with the other points in the round, she's caught up with Sue Perkins, who's in second place behind Stephen, and he's one ahead. They're all one ahead of Paul. No, they're all more than. I don't know what it's Only 1 or 2 points separate all of them.
It's close.
Sue, we're with you to begin. Weeding is the subject. I think you're a gardener, and I understand how you love your garden. Tell us something about weeding in this game, starting now.
Weeding has got immeasurably easier since I invested in an industrial flamethrower. Oh, the days of hacking away at bits of shrubbery with a spade. Now I can switch on the butane gas monster and irradiate the entire yard in a nanosecond. Think of me as a horticultural Ripley from Alien, casting aside all notions of conventional gardening, instead turning my vicious attentions to absolutely destroying everything that stands in my way. Weeds have no bounds to my excessive violent force. I can't abide flowers anyway. They tend to get caught in the backdraft, which is the new technical term I employ for the clearance that I use. I love what you've done, say neighbours as they drive by amidst the smoke and...
Well, that hasn't happened for quite a while in this show. But Sue, you started with a subject, and you kept going without hesitation, repetition, or deviation, and without being challenged either, for 60 seconds. So you get a point for speaking as the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And you're now equal with Stephen Fry in the lead, and you are 2 points ahead of Fee Glover and Paul Merton. And Stephen, we're back with you to begin. And the subject, rather a strange one, how to clean a chandelier. Strange subject. Can you tell us something about it? Or have you personal experience? Well, we'll find out anyway. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, I think the most important thing is first to disengage the chandelier from any electrical current. So make sure that's done. Then cover the bulbs in some sort of sacking. I would use isopropyl alcohol in order to clean the individual crystals that depend from your chandelier. Most important, and let's remember him just for a moment, John Sullivan made a marvellous scene in Only Fools and Horses where chandeliers fell to the ground because they chose the wrong one to loosen. Don't do that. That's my advice. Fail to do that, and then really things can't go too far wrong. It's important, I think, to clean a chandelier once every 4.72 years because the dulling of the individual glass facets is very quickly onset and must be overcome. As I say, some solvent, Freon, might be a good choice. Otherwise, a volatile fluid like perhaps, and I'm not really being prescriptive here, it's merely a suggestion, something along the lines of, I don't know.
Stephen, you went for 59.5 seconds.
Oh! Beast dared challenge me. Only Paul Merton would dare.
Well, not only dare, he was listening. It was he has the sharpest ears. So you've gone in, Paul, with half a second. And I tell you what we'll do. As he went for 59.5 seconds, give him a bonus point. And Paul, your challenge...
hesitation.
That's right, yes. Half a second. How to clean a chandelier, starting now.
Soapy water.
So, Paul Merton speaking as a whistle. When gained that extra point? Gosh, it's neck and neck here. Paul, Fee, Sue, Stephen, in that sequence. Just 1 point separating them all, 4. I don't think you're really interested in the points, which is a bit of a bore, isn't it? Well, I'm not either, but I know there are some listeners who are, because they write in about them. How can you sit at home and just tot up the points, rather than listen to the humour and the fun and the repartee and the flavour and the whole essence of the frissons of the show? I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's jolly good stuff, isn't it? Paul, your turn to begin. The perfect best man's speech. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
The perfect best man's speech. I can't help but feel that members of the public are sometimes put into a rather invidious position when they're not used to speaking in front of their contemporaries to actually put jokes into the best man's speech, which I think is a terrible problem altogether, because nobody's really expecting you to have the wit of Jack Benny or Dave Allen. All they need is for you to say, I've met the bride, isn't she lovely? Or I know the groom, he's my brother. Or will you please notice that Uncle Ernie over there, who's currently trying to stuff his fag ends into the wedding cake, is actually a marvellous eccentric that we've invited here by mistake. Once you've come places...
Sue challenge.
Oh, hesitation.
Yes, absolutely.
Just about, yes, and he hit the microphone
Yes.
in his frustration. I only mention that because the listeners might want to know what the bang was. 20 seconds. Sue, you want 20 seconds to go, and the subject is the perfect best man speech, starting now.
The perfect best man speech is guaranteed to destroy the wedding only hours after the priest has pronounced them man and wife. So coruscating in its wit, so revelatory in its revelations, the man and woman will suddenly be cast asunder. What? You're knocking her off? Next door? I can't believe it. And to make such light of it.
So Sue Perkins was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and we're moving into the final round, I've been told. Oh, you are lovely. I'll give you the sequence. There's very few points between all of them. Fee Glover's just in fourth place. Then 1 point apart, that is Paul Merton, and then 1 point ahead of that, Stephen Fry, and 1 point out in the lead at the moment is Sue Perkins. And Fee, we're back with you to begin. Will you take this subject, the most beautiful word in the world? 60 seconds starting now.
There's always a moment, isn't there, when you're sitting in the pub and after everyone's discussed their various holidays and people have decided who they like and who they have chosen not to love, that somebody decides it would be a good idea to talk about the best and most beautiful word in the world. And people always say gusset. It's then followed by someone who says moist. And you suddenly look around these people who formerly you thought were friends and you think, what have you been thinking about?
Sue challenge.
People.
Oh, no, too
Oh,
many
yes.
people.
3 times.
Yeah.
Too many people.
Yeah.
Too many people.
Too many people, my darling, but it doesn't matter. We enjoyed it, particularly the gusset. Sue, 36 seconds available still on the most beautiful word in the world, starting now.
My favourite word in the entire universe is nugatory, which simply means trifling, and yet it's such a substantial word in itself. Works against the very meaning of it. When you say trifle, you mean a piffle. I've repeated it twice.
Stephen Chan.
Trifle, I think, was...
Yes,
yeah,
it was
trifle.
a trifle before, right?
Yeah.
So, Stephen, you've got 26 seconds still, and the subject is the most beautiful word in the world, starting now.
There's a word in a Ben Jonson poem. Have you marked but the fall of the snow before the soil hath smutched it? And I adore that word, smutch. You don't need to know what it means. It's so obvious. It's a kind of compendium of smudge. No, I didn't say smutch twice. I said smutched and smutch. It was very nice of you to suggest that he challenged. But the line in the poem is, have you marked but the fall of the snow before the soil hath smutched it? And then I said, I love the word smutch.
But didn't
So
you,
it's not a repetition.
didn't you smutch again just
No.
at the end?
You did. You said it 3 times, and one...
Did I?
A tiny, tiny smutch.
Yes, so you're either...
No, I said it's a compendium of smudge. I said that's what it means. You know that it means smudge. Yeah, I didn't say smudge. That's the point. I said you instinctively know that it means smudge.
You'll fight for every little point, won't you?
I fight only for justice.
Well, as you're all absolutely equal at the moment, and Fee's not played the game before, can I give her the benefit
By
of the
all
doubt?
means. By all means.
And well, you have 10 seconds, Fee, on the most beautiful word in the world, starting now.
There are quite a few people listening who...
Stephen Chan.
That's the 4th people now, I'm afraid.
So, Stephen, you lose it, but you get it back. Another point to you. 8 seconds. The most beautiful word in the world, starting now.
I like words which don't rhyme with others. Silver, orange, oblige, curfew.
Paul Challenge.
Orange, door hinge.
I know a ruder one.
Orange.
You know rude and rhyme for orange?
Yes.
What is
I
it?
can't say it because it won't be broadcast. I'll say it later.
Hinge. Oh, no. Very close, but not quite there, Paul, I don't think.
Not quite there, no.
No, right.
Sure.
So, Stephen, you've got 2 seconds on the most beautiful word in the world, starting now.
Quite fond of emolument.
So it's time to give you the final score. Paul Merton and Fee Glover both finished in 3rd place, equal. and 3 points ahead of them was Sue Perkins, and 2 points ahead of Sue was Stephen Fry. So we say, Stephen, you are our winner this week. Then it remains to say thank you to these 4 fine, exciting players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Fee Glover, and Stephen Fry. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. So from me, Nicholas Parsons, and these wonderful players of the game, please tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but to welcome to the programme 4 talented, humorous, witty, clever exponents of this game, who are going to display their talent with words and language as they talk on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Tony Hawks, and seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Tony Hawks. Tony, the first signs of summer. Talk on the subject, Tony. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
One of the first signs of summer I always notice is please keep off the grass. And it seems very mean-spirited indeed. Surely this lovely green substance is there for us to enjoy, to frolic upon. There were first signs of summer today. Nobody could doubt it. On the streets of London, people were baring their disgusting chests for us all to watch. And some people are burnt to a frazzle.
Julian, challenge.
Repetition of people.
Yes, there's too many people there, yes. Ooh. And you have a correct challenge, therefore a point for that, and there are 22 seconds available. The first signs of summer starting now.
The first signs of summer is when I go down to the woods listening for the Nightingale. I unbutton the top 3 holes in my shirt, cock an ear, and there it is. Gently
Paul, you challenged.
Sadly, a slight hesitation.
Yes, slightly, yes. Yes. You were really ribbing him there. You were reacting to him. I mean, our listeners couldn't see it, but it was correct. He did hesitate. So, Paul, you have 10 seconds. The first signs of summer, Paul, starting now.
The first signs of summer is when you stretch out your hands underneath the table and see what you find underneath. Oh, my goodness me, it's an incontinent duck.
This can't have anything possibly to do with summer. If he had set the scene in a tent on a camping expedition, maybe. What he is describing is obviously a winter activity. Table is involved, under it, I'm sorry, deviation in everything.
I don't know.
Have you never been on the heath in the first signs of summer?
This was not the first sign of summer.
I don't know. I've seen people do all kinds of strings when the first sign of summer comes on.
He's frisky.
They get
He's
heated.
frisky because it's summer.
You know,
Summer. He's made him very, very frisky.
I thought you were going to have him for repetition, but it's too late now.
Deviation is what I'm challenging him on.
I know, and it's wrong.
What?
So, Paul, another point to you. 4 seconds.
Funny summer you're having, that's all I'm saying. Funny summer you're having.
No, I'm always fair. If I can give you the benefit of the doubt later on, you'll find I will do that. 4 seconds, Paul, starting now.
The first signs of summer. Take off your trousers.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion it was Paul Merton, and he's naturally in the lead at the end of the round. Gyles, we'd like you to start the next round. Would you tell us something about the perfect marriage in this game, starting now?
My wife is indeed perfection. She has the beauty that would ensure her place in Mr. Berlusconi's next administration. The intelligence that would place her on the front bench of the Liberal Democrat Party, and the technical skills that would rival those of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. And yet our marriage is not perfect because I am part of it. I drag the whole thing down. From perfection, we turn to something torrid.
Challenged.
Well, I want him to talk about the perfect marriage, not the imperfect marriage.
Oh, you can't know what is perfect until you've tasted imperfection?
Well, I haven't got long enough. It's the same point as before.
No, Gyles, I think in this game you have to make your points pretty rapidly, otherwise you lost it just. And so, Tony, you have a correct challenge, and you have 34 seconds. No! He was talking about the imperfect marriage.
Look.
And in this game, we're talking about the perfect marriage. So Tony has the benefit of the doubt.
It doesn't matter to me because I go back to the love of a good woman. Yeah?
Tony, 34 seconds. The perfect marriage starting now.
Several weeks ago, we enjoyed watching the perfect marriage of Prince Harry or whatever his name is.
Full challenge.
Well, deviation from the historical record. We haven't seen Prince Harry a few weeks ago get married.
No, we haven't.
No, we didn't enjoy it.
Well, when's this show going out? When's this show going out?
Well, it's Prince William that's getting married, not Prince Harry. So I don't know, what, do you want a 5-year moratorium on this or something?
That shows how much interest I showed in it. I thought it was Prince Harry that was getting married.
Well,
it's Prince
I
William.
might be wrong, but there seems to be a lot of tea towels out there saying something different.
Have I blown my chance of a knighthood now, do you think?
I don't think you had much chance in the first place. Paul.
Yes.
Correct challenge. 29 seconds. The perfect marriage starting now.
When we think back to that gorgeous day, Prince William surprised everybody by getting married to Christopher Biggins, who at the very last moment came running up the aisle saying, "Take me, give us a chance, I'm as good as any woman." And it proved to be that he was. The two of them became beekeepers in rural Sussex and produced royal jam every year and honey, which was considered the finest that delicatessens could buy. I still remember holding a label in my hand in the year 2017.
Well, it was lovely stuff, Paul, but it got nothing to do with the perfect marriage, as far as I was concerned. But, in a fantasy world, maybe it was. I don't know. But you were speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. You've increased your lead. You're 2 ahead of Tony Hawks and Julian Clary and then Giles Brandreth. And, Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The reasons not to go on holiday. 60 seconds starting now.
The reasons not to go on holiday, I suppose, are quite a few. If you have a loving family and a beautiful house and you enjoy spending time in each other's company, then you could perhaps say to yourself, we won't go abroad this year, we will stay around the home.
Giles.
Hesitation.
I call that hesitation, yes.
More of an extended word.
Yeah.
But it went on a long time.
45 seconds, Giles. The reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
Who wants to do anything twice? I've already been on holiday. If you like it, well...
Julian, challenge.
Well, I'd call that hesitation. No. He sort of swallowed the word like...
No, I don't think so, no. Giles, you still have the subject, and you have 37 seconds. Reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
The holiday that I did take was in North Wales. I arrived in August in the hailstones.
Well, it's a deviation. He's talking about going on holiday, and the subject is the reason not to go on holiday.
Yes, I'm about to explain. I'm about to explain.
See,
I haven't got long enough.
See?
I'm about to explain.
He's on the Wales on holiday. Awfully sorry.
I actually had mentioned the hailstones, and that I think in August in North Wales, hailstones is a reason not to go on holiday.
Yes.
My feeling.
I said I would give you the benefit of the doubt if the occasion arose, and it has arisen.
Thank you.
And so you have it, because you didn't give enough chance to carry on and say why you were in North Wales. And 33 seconds still with you, Giles, starting now.
The real horror is the other people who go on holiday with you. There you are in Llandudno, getting the pick of the shelters, and all these people wearing kiss-me-quick hats.
Paul challenge.
2 peoples. We have people and people.
Yes, all these
repetition.
people. Yes. Oh. Well, listen, Paul.
In the middle of your class hatred, you said it twice.
23 seconds are still available, Paul. Reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
I would not like to go on holiday unless I were with people. I were with...
Tony Tanners.
Hesitation.
No, it was repetition. But not hesitation. I kept going, that was the trouble.
Tony, 14 seconds. The reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
I suppose one of the main reasons people don't go on holiday is because they don't have enough money.
Paul Challenge.
There was a quick two don'ts quite quickly, one after the other.
Yes. Don't.
Somebody woken up into their disappointment. This isn't Brain of Britain.
Correct challenge, Paul. 9 seconds. Reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
Other people have been...
Julian challenge.
You said people
I
earlier.
haven't said people.
I thought you had.
No, everybody else has.
I thought you did say people.
Yes, it's funny, that, isn't it?
7 seconds, Paul. Reasons not to go on holiday, starting now.
1 year, I decided that the best thing for me to do was to go to Butlins holiday camp and avoid every single...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point and has moved forward into a strong lead. And Tony Hawks, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is dividing household chores. 60 seconds, starting now.
My girlfriend isn't in the audience this evening, so I can say I am a master of dividing household chores, although she would say cleaning is not my forte. I think that something has been cleaned sufficiently, and she comes down and looks at it and says, it's a disgrace. What were you thinking of, Hawks? That's what she calls me. We're very affectionate, but that's enough detail. Now, dividing chores should be done by a panel of men who sit down and say, that's good enough for me, well done, go through into the other room and relax in the chair, watch football, do whatever you like, really. I'm not confident of carrying on much longer, but let's...
Gyles, your challenge.
Yes, hesitation on behalf of the Relate organisation.
Well, it was hesitation, right. 22 seconds, Gyles. Dividing household chores, starting now.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my wife does the ground floor and the kitchen. What a scrubber. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, she does upstairs. This is how we divide the chores. MWF and double TS is the code for this. The arrangement is totally satisfactory. Introduced to me by my good friend...
So Gyles, Brandreth speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's just in second place behind Paul Merton, and then the other two follow. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a good laugh. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
There's nothing quite as therapeutic as a good laugh. It waves around the diaphragm and puts a smile on your face, and you feel cheery for the rest of the week. A good laugh is essential, I think, for everyone's well-being. Listening to Just a Minute can induce this very thing of which we talk. Or you might turn on the television and see Sian Phillips on Breakfast Time. Well, what an elegant woman, and she makes me laugh. She sits there with her legs crossed, and I am howling. So is my friend...
Paul challenged.
Do you mean Sian Phillips, the actress who was married to Peter O'Toole, or do you mean Sian Lloyd, the weather girl?
I mean Sian Phillips. I've got satellite. It's from a different channel that you're probably not familiar with.
She's a well-respected classical actress.
She used to be.
Yes. She now does daytime TV, does she, as a presenter? Deviation's got the wrong Sian. You know the difference, don't you?
Yes, I do know the difference, yes, just... Paul, correct challenge. A good laugh is with you. 25 seconds, starting now.
A Max Miller joke. I came home the other night, I said to the wife, I hear the milkman has made love to every woman in this street bar one. She said, I bet it's that stuck-up cow at number 54. This was a story that was first heard in the
Julian's challenge.
Was he challenged?
Well, it's other people's material you're doing.
It had a good laugh in it, unlike some of the other contributions to the subject.
Julian, it's correct. I mean, he got a good laugh. A piece of material from another comedian. He got a good laugh.
Quoted who it was from.
Yes, right.
Yeah, did try to pass it off as my own.
What's that supposed to mean? Outside.
No. For a minute, I thought you were angry with me.
The affection and the aggro, which goes hand in hand on this show, is absolutely delightful. Right, 14 seconds with you, Paul, on a good laugh, starting now.
Laurel and Hardy stand...
Julian challenge.
Oh, anything but that.
Oh, why, Julian?
Oh, I tire of it.
Julian?
Buster Keaton, maybe. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, I've got a step ladder.
Are you mocking your friend because he's an... Are you mocking your friend because he's an authority on these comedians of that
generation? Authority? Is that the word we're
using?
Julian.
God forbid I should have a one-track mind when it came to jokes, Julian. I really wouldn't know where I would...
Julian, you've got a good laugh with what you said, so we give you a bonus point for that.
Thank you.
But he wasn't deviating in any way, so, Paul, you carry on with a good laugh. 12 seconds, starting now.
Oscar Wilde once said to George Bernard Shaw, the very essence of a good laugh is when you have one man bending over to tie up his shoes while another kisses him on both cheeks. And, you know...
Right. So Paul Merton was speaking whistle as the whistle went again, and he has increased his lead at the end of the round. And, Paul, it's back with you to begin. The subject now is shift work. Can you tell us something about shift work in this game, starting now?
I remember my dad doing shift work when he was working on London Underground. He would leave the house probably about 7:30 in the evening. You'd see him again around about 8:15 the following.
Right, Julian challenge.
Repetition of past.
8:15.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right. So, Julian, you're in there with 49 seconds on shift work, starting now.
When I worked for the Metropolitan Police, I had to do shift work. Night duty was my favourite. I would pop my truncheon over my back, shine up my helmet, and off I went with a little Tupperware...
Gyles challenge.
You can't shine up a helmet.
Oh, don't get me started on that one.
I'm just speaking on behalf of the core Radio 4 audience, you know.
Gyles,
people who still like going to Ambridge and still feel the world, you know, was perhaps better when Gilbert Harding was running it.
Giles, whether you can or not, I'm sure that Julian managed to achieve that.
Very good.
So, Julian, you have an incorrect challenge. You keep the subject. Another point. 36 seconds. Shift work starting now.
Sometimes we'll be very, very quiet.
Tony.
Oh, sorry, Julian.
You're being very, very...
Yes,
right.
repetition.
33 seconds, Tony. Shift work starting now.
I always like to shift work to the bottom of the agenda, enjoying leisure as I do, and it's difficult to believe that this is work for me.
Giles challenge.
Hesitation. Gradual hesitation.
No. I think you thought he repeated the word work, but it's on the card. And you
are a mind reader. Yes. That's why you are here.
Yes, sir. Tony, correct challenge. 22 seconds, shift work, starting now.
I'm lucky to be on the early evening shift of Just a Minute, because there will be a 2 a.m. recording featuring...
Giles challenge.
Now came the hesitation.
Yes, because I don't know about a 2 a.m. recording.
No, there's no 2 a.m. No. No 2 a.m. recording. No. Oh, is that the time?
The only thing I'd say, though, for hesitation, surely you have to hesitate.
Yes.
Did I hesitate?
Yes.
He didn't hesitate, but you
didn't he?
Yeah, but deviate, but you didn't have him for deviation.
Oh, didn't I?
You had him for
that's what Paul picked up.
Yeah. But that was too late then. It was too late then, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know about that.
So,
whatever you say.
You still have the subject, Tony, and you have 14 seconds. Shift work starting now.
I used to work in a carpet factory, and we did shifts, lifting the edges of these little tapestries off the floor for people to view. It was extraordinarily tedious, and yet we found joy in it because we were
Paul challenge.
There was 3 wees all in one sentence there.
Two.
I needed a wee.
Let one go. But you've got him with 1 second to go, Paul. And shift work is with you starting now.
When I see white, I shift.
Paul Merton once again was speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point, has increased his lead, and the other 3 are trailing him, but they're very, very close in 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. Tony Hawks, it's your turn to begin. We'd like to take this interesting subject now, my favourite made-up word. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I've never been terribly keen on the word guesstimate. However, blog is a made-up word. I suppose it's come into our parlance in the last 10 years or so, and it has a little ring to it which is pleasing to the ear, not necessarily relevant to the subject matter and diet.
Gyles' challenge.
By his own acknowledgement, not as necessarily relevant to the subject matter, which I think suggests deviation from the subject matter. I'm only picking up the lead given to us by T on my left hand.
You're right. It is relevant because the subject, it may be a made-up word, but it is relevant to the subject.
All words are made up. All words are made up.
I know, because sometimes people didn't have words.
That's
drums,
right.
didn't they?
Do you remember that time before language when you just... when you just had to point at things?
I know.
And draw them on the cave wall. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's right.
You were one of the first proponents of fire. You were very keen on fire, weren't you? Evolution of man, fire 1 minute, next minute, very lovely jackets. It all happened in space. About 2 years, didn't it?
An incorrect challenge on your part, because it was relevant to blog. So, my favourite made-up word, Tony, 40 seconds starting now.
As Paul pointed out in that delightful intermission from this wonderful speech, all words are made up. Glove. What a good word that is. Very handy for rhyming with love if you're a songwriter, and people have done that over the ages, and with great efficiency. Just think of Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, to name but two.
Paul challenge.
Which Cole Porter song rhymes love with glove?
I don't want to go through the catalogue now.
OK, Irving Berlin then, perhaps?
It doesn't really matter, because you can rhyme love with glove.
Yes, but did either of those two?
I don't know whether they did or
I think
not.
they did. I think that
Tony says yes on the basis that nobody else knows.
Well, how many songs... Does anyone know how many songs Irving Berlin wrote?
Yes,
they go into the thousands.
Yes.
Absolutely, and I bet he did on one occasion
thank you very
do that. So you'll have the benefit of the doubt, and you have 17 seconds. My favourite made-up word, Tony, starting now.
Eeky beaky isn't a word, but I've made it up, and it's now my new favourite. Eeky beaky... Oh, I can't...
Well, it's your favourite. You shouldn't repeat it so
I know.
quickly. So, Gyles, who challenged? Oh, Julian
Repetition.
challenged. No, Julian challenged.
Yes, well, repetition of Eeky Beaky or something.
And you have, Julian, 10 seconds starting now.
If you watch Laurel and Hardy films very, very closely...
Tony challenged.
Repetition of very...
It was Tony who challenged.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I see it's been unplugged. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
7 seconds with you, Tony. My favourite made-up word starting now.
Thrust. Imagine that if you stood on the
Paul challenged.
Deviation, he didn't say eeky beaky, and he established that was his favourite word.
Yes.
So deviation for not saying eeky beaky.
I can't say eeky beaky again. I've got myself in a hideous trap.
You've created this paradox for yourself. You can't repeat your favourite word.
I'm going to after the show,
can't
though,
repeat,
over
yes.
and over again.
But he can talk about my favourite made-up word and go round the corner to it and not actually use the word again. So, the benefit of the doubt to you, Tony. My favourite made-up word, 3 seconds starting now.
We can all stand in silence, listening to the oracle.
So, Tony Hawk, again speaking with the whistle end, gained that extra point, and with others in the round has moved forward rapidly. He's only 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead, and the other two are equal in third place, a few points behind. I've just heard we've no more time. We've got to move into the final round. Oh, you are lovely. I'll give you the situation as we do. Julian is trailing just a little. He's behind Gyles, who's got quite a few points, but he's 3 or 4 behind Tony Hawks, who is 1 behind Paul Merton, as we go into the final round. And Gyles, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is worms. Tell us something about worms in this game, starting now.
Worms are the most beautiful of God's creatures because they give us silk. And thanks to worms, we have diaphanous items of clothing with which we can dress our beautiful women who one day will be turned into worms.
Well, you're placing women far beneath worms, as you've described worms as the most beautiful creation of God. And then you sort of describe the silk being put onto beautiful women. But I think it's deviation. I don't think worms are the most beautiful... He's looking at me like I'm wrong. Am I?
Yeah, because I think I got the impression that Gyles was saying they do a most amazing job.
Yes.
And they create these beautiful things which women wear.
Yes.
Not that they were the beautiful creatures.
No. I got that bit wrong.
Yeah. So, Gyles, another point to you.
See how he goes quietly, Gyles?
Yeah. 39 seconds. Worms. Starting now.
Hesitation.
Gyles, you're sitting there with your mouth open as if you were about to start.
The lack of courtesy that somebody should be gabbling away while you were trying to introduce the item is extraordinary to me.
And there is a lot of lack of courtesy on this show. Look at the way they respect their show.
You wait till the 2 a.m. recording.
No, we don't have a lot of respect on this show, but we do have a lot of fun. Paul, 38 seconds on worms starting now.
My grandfather was the biggest proponent of worms. He used to say to me, the goodness of the soil depends on the worms.
Tony challenge.
I want the benefit of the bloody doubt.
Why?
Because I got the correct challenge before, and you gave it to Paul. I haven't brought my lawyer along with me.
I have little lights in front of me, which tells me which light comes on first, and it was Paul's light.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm still begging for the benefit of the doubt.
Well, you may get it. There isn't much time left, is there? But no, Paul, your light came on first, so you had the correct challenge. And 33 seconds, worms starting now.
It was told to me at school that if you cut the worm in half, both individual halves will come back together again. I've never been so spirited and meanful and mindful and go and...
Tony challenge.
Is there a sort of hesitation in there?
No.
I thought that was going to be a benefit of the doubt one, really, but there you go.
No, he was getting very close to it, but it wasn't there. Right. 22 seconds, Paul, still with you. Worms starting now.
They are seen as a sign of the early bird catches the worm. It's an indication that if you get up early enough, beat your competitors.
Julian.
Repetition of early.
There were too many earlies there. Early bird catching the early worm.
Oh, right, I've written down early bird. It's worms, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, Julian, 15 seconds. Tell us something about worms starting now.
I had worms once. I was ravenous. I had a huge baguette, and then I was still peckish. So I went down to the butcher's, and I said, look, you've got to feed me. And he said, come in the back room, and I had a sausage. Still, I was...
Yes.
He gagged at the prospect of that sausage. Hesitated.
I know, he was going for a big payoff. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And you got him with 1 second to go. On worms starting now.
Martin Luther!
This was to be the final round. Let me give you the final score. Julian, who contributed so much, but didn't get as many points as the others. He was a few points behind Giles Brandreth, who was 1 point behind Tony Hawks, and he was 2 points behind Paul Merton. So, Paul, we say, you are the winner this week. Well, we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, and Gyles Brandreth, and Tony Hawks. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She's blown the whistle beautifully when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute!
And you can join Nicholas Parsons at the same time next week when his guests will be Paul Merton, Graham Norton, Josie Lawrence and Jenny Eclair.
Welcome to Just a Minute. It's Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented, clever individuals who are going to try and speak on a subject they give them and show off their skill with words and language as they don't hesitate, repeat things, or deviate from that subject. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Jenny Eclair, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Josie Lawrence. Will you please welcome all four of them? And seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score. She will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And the audience are now hushed. So we're going to begin the show this week with Graham Norton, and who better? Graham. Oh, how to make small talk at parties. Can you talk on that subject? 60 seconds, starting now.
Compliments are the key to making small talk at parties. You meet a man, you say, "Hey, have you been working out?" And if you encounter a woman, even if you have never seen her before in your life, you say, "Have you lost weight?" And they will be delighted. They can't wait to pass on the hors d'oeuvres to you, because you will now be their favorite person at the party. How to make small talk at a party. Avoid your idea for introducing the death penalty, and don't go on about difficult subjects that I can't... I took my own advice there.
Paul, you challenged.
I think it was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation, yes. We loved it all. Well done, Graham. But, Graham, you went for 40 seconds. Pretty... Oh.
I didn't jump through a hoop. I talked for 40 seconds.
But, Paul, correct challenge. Fire. So you get a point for a correct challenge in this game, and you take over the subject, and you have 20 seconds available. How to make small talk at parties, starting now.
You know, I have these little tiny plates of food that come round. Tiny, oh.
Jenny challenge.
He said tiny twice. I couldn't leave it.
Right. So you've got him with 16 seconds to go, Jenny, on how to make a small talk at parties, starting now.
Try not to dribble, and if you do not say, "Oh, it's either one end or the other," which I did at a party quite recently, to which the gentleman in question recoiled in horror. Keep to safe topics such as food, holidays. Have you ever been...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Jenny Eclair, and so she now has 2 points. Paul has 1. The others have yet to score, and Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, oh, a lovely one, smoothies. Tell us something about smoothies in this game, starting now.
I wake up in the morning and think, hooray, I'm going to make myself a breakfast smoothie. I love making smoothies. There I am in the kitchen, in front of me, my second favourite electrical appliance in all the world, the liquidizer. In I chuck bananas, peeled, pummets of strawberries, a green apple with a core still attached for roughage.
Deviation from a proper smoothie. You can't put apples in smoothies, can you? Can you?
It sweetens them.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Do you put lemon juice in to stop it going brown?
Yes. Unless you want a brown smoothie.
Oh, that's right.
I withdraw my challenge.
Incorrect challenge, Josie, so you have a point for that. There are 37 seconds for you to tell us more about these mouth-watering smoothies, starting now.
Walnuts for the brain, Greek yogurt. It has to be that particular kind of white stuff, else I don't want to know. I put the lid on and then turn on the volume. No, not the volume.
This is going to be messy, isn't it?
Yes.
She's put the radio on and she's getting confused between her electrical appliances. I don't think she should be allowed in the kitchen because there's sharp knives in there. She could harm herself.
I meant to say knob.
Yeah. That's Graham's job.
So let's come back to the person who challenged, which was Paul.
Oh, it was deviation.
Yes. Deviation, right. Yes. 25 seconds, Paul, on smoothies, starting now.
So if you're going to make small talk at parties, you go up to somebody and you say, "I'm very good at making smoothies. What I do is I get fresh ingredients from one of the more leading supermarkets that you find in your high street, and I put them all together in a glass container and whiz themselves up in the morning. And what a wonderful treat it is. I like turning it into a breakfast DJ. And if you want to have a really good raspberry smoothie, I recommend you use that fruit, because if you put strawberries in, it's going to taste more like that than raspberry."
Paul, you were speaking as a whistle when you gained that extra point, and you are now in the lead ahead of Jenny Eclair and Josie Lawrence and Graham Norton. Jenny, will you begin the next round? The subject is internet dating. 60 seconds, starting now.
Never had the need myself. I've always been able to pull on the bus.
Graham challenge.
Even she couldn't struggle through that lie. There was a hesitation in the middle.
There was a hesitation.
There was a slur and a hesitation.
Yeah, but Graham can only have 1 point. I think that's quite sufficient. 57 seconds, Graham. Internet dating starting now.
Internet dating is, of course, very nervous-making because you meet someone lovely online, you arrange to meet them, and then something that looks like your
Josie Chalmers.
He sort of stumbled during by laughing, but he did say meek twice as well, which I'm sorry.
Did I? Yep.
So,
Okay.
Josie, you got in with 42 seconds on internet dating starting now.
I did try internet dating once, actually. It was a wonderful... Oh, gosh.
Graham Chalmers.
Would suggest a hesitation.
That was the name of the man I had the date with. He was from Norway.
It didn't come over like that, Josie.
No, you're quite right.
So, Graham, you're back in with 37 seconds on internet dating starting now.
Internet dating is perhaps best used if you are interested in niche dating. That would mean somebody who likes something.
Jenny, your chance.
He did hesitate, and I think it was a good job, because I think he was going to get a little bit specific.
I think he was slowly running down to a halt then, yes.
Thank you, Jenny.
So interpret that as hesitation. And internet dating is with you, Jenny, now. 25 seconds starting now.
The thing is, people lie. If I wanted to go on internet dating, I'd put a picture of Cindy Crawford in and say, look at me, I'm 24 years old and so much fun. The actual truth is I'm a horrible 51-year-old bad-tempered cow, but nobody wants to meet anyone like that. So that's why the whole system is full of absolute fibs, lies, slant...
Graham Chalmers.
Repetition of lies, but now I've got the stupid subject back.
Yes.
Oh, and also, no, you're not, Jenny. Was I a bit slow with that?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, sorry.
I was waiting for an interruption before then. Thank you very much.
Half a second. Graham, internet dating starting now.
My favourite item.
So Graham Norton speakers a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now taken the lead ahead of the other three. And Paul Merton would like you to begin the next round. The subject now is plankton. Can you tell us something about plankton in this game starting now?
Plankton is very small fish that swim around the sea in large, millions of them, groups, and whales come along and eat plankton. It seems to be what the whale mainly considers to be its diet is plankton.
Graham Chalmers.
I think a hesitation.
I think it was too, yes. 47 seconds, Graham. Plankton with you, starting now.
Judging from the size of whales, one can only imagine just how calorific plankton is. Because it doesn't look that filling, to be honest. In fact, you cannot see it with the naked eye. Write in if that's wrong. I'm not really sure.
Paul Chalmers.
No, you can see it. You can see it.
You can, yes.
Deviation. So
that's
can you?
deviation. Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah.
And then the whale comes along, opens his mouth, and a great shoal of little plankton goes inside.
Oh, speak slow. I'm trying to write this down.
Paul, the correct challenge. 31 seconds. Plankton starting now.
When I looked around the people at my CSE maths class, I realised that I was with them. One of us was plankton and all of us were. We were very stupid people. We were right at the bottom of the educational tree.
Josie
It
Chalmers.
was about 3 we wers then.
We were, yes.
Yeah,
We were, yes.
Absolutely.
So, 20 seconds, Josie, on plankton starting now.
Plankton is indeed a living organism. I have swum in a sea at night, and the plankton lights up by the light of the moon.
Sorry, Josie, no, light and light. She was right. Keep going, darling. It's fascinating. Very bad challenge, very poor.
Don't bother to apologise.
Yeah.
She gets another point. And she moves forward with 11 seconds on plankton starting now.
You look like a beautiful sea creature, a mermaid. You're lit up, blue.
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of C.
C, yes.
Oh.
Yes. Oh. Right, Paul. 5 seconds on plankton starting now.
I once had a pair of underpants made out of plankton, which was awfully difficult when I got to Swansea, because as I said, whales and plankton, you know what I mean. It goes...
So, Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And he's now moved one ahead of Graham Norton and two ahead of Josie Lawrence and Jenny Eclair. Graham, it's your turn to begin. The subject is creepy houses. Tell us something about creepy houses in this game starting now?
The thing is, houses are houses, but sometimes a house is not a home. I live somewhere where my sister claims it's haunted. She and my brother-in-law have heard things on the stairs in the middle of the night. Now, I don't like to tell her what those sounds are, but I'm pretty sure my house does not have a ghost or a creepy...
Jenny Janet.
2 ghosts.
Were there? Yeah. I was thinking if I said haunt, I didn't know what I...
So, Jenny, you've gone in with 32 seconds on creepy houses starting now.
Net curtains and gnomes are often the sign of a serial killer, so have a good look at what you've got living next door to you. Often it's not just haunted houses that are creepy. Maybe divorcing couples can leave a stain of upset soaked into the carpet. I think estate agents should be more honest and say things like, a 13-year-old shouldn't be left here alone at night, or if you're a little bit of the depressive type, don't buy this house. It's really not a happy... Some houses you go in, and when the floorboards creak, they're not just creaking, they're crying.
A happy ghost in mine.
Oh,
no.
Good.
Yes, we had one once in a house I owned once. He used to come out at night and chat, but could never see him. And the...
Was that just the radio, Nicholas?
So, what is the situation is, and who was speaking then with the whistle? Jenny was, yes? And she's now in second place, alongside Graham Norton and Josie Lawrence. They're 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's in the lead. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, after all the creepiness we've had, leaving on a high is the subject. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I always like to leave a party on a high. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for laughing at all my jokes, complimenting me on my fashion sense and beauty. See you all at the next big do. But usually I leave on a, all right, I'm going. Sod the lot of you. There's somewhere around here that'll serve me. That wasn't made up.
Well, as an actress, you got your round of applause, my darling, but it was a big pause. So, Jenny, you've gone in first. Leaving on a high is with you, Jenny, and the 33 seconds available, starting now.
You can leave on a high if you commit suicide jumping off Beachy Head. It's quite a high place to leap from. What other highs?
Paul Chalmers.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Yes, hesitation, Paul, and you have 24 seconds, leaving on a high, starting now.
When this programme eventually comes to an end, and it's been running now since the 1960s, and I don't imagine its end will...
Graham, challenge?
Repetitive end, or maybe stopped. He ended anyway.
Yes.
Hesitation, deviation, repetition, I don't know. He seems to have finished.
I think it's a correct challenge. You have it anyway. 16 seconds, leaving on a high, starting now.
The last time I was at Beachy Head, and this is true, I met an old lady coming down the hill, and as she passed, she went, talked myself out of it, which I thought was very cheery, and something so British about that woman in her woolly hat.
So Graham Norton was then speaking as the whistle went. Again, that extra point is now equal in the lead with Paul Merton, and the other two are just behind them. And Jenny, we'd like you to begin the next round. My favourite shoes. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
My favourite shoes are the point shoes I wore to my successful audition at the Royal School of Ballet. This was when I was 11 years old. Before that, my favourite shoes were a black patent pair of Mary Janes. Do you remember those? How sweet and charming we looked in the 1960s with our lacy tights. Those favourite shoes meant party time. The great thing about shiny shoes is that if you eat too many sausage rolls and jelly, ice cream, cake, etc., and are sick on said shoes, they can be hosed down, unlike suede shoes, which are no good at all and are never my favourite. Don't fall in love with a pair of nubucks, because they will never see you out and will only let you down and stain heavily. That's all I'm trying to say. Of course, what? Stop it. I got stared out of it.
Paul, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah, there was, yes. 10 seconds, Paul, and another point to you. My favourite shoes starting now.
My favourite shoes happen to be the shoes I'm wearing at this very moment. The right is very similar to the left, although there are subtle differences. Perhaps, if you think of it as a shoe, I would...
So Paul Merton then, speaking as the whistle Wayne, gained an extra point. He's moved forward, and he's just ahead of the other three. They're all very close, but Paul's just in the lead. Then Graham, and then Jenny, and then Josie in that order. Paul, your turn to begin, and the subject is dog lovers. Tell us something about those people in this game, starting now.
Dog lovers are recognised by their love of dogs. You'll see them walking down the street and they'll have a dog with them on a lead or a leash, and they will indicate to this animal where it should empty itself on the pavement or sidewalk if you happen to be an American. And this mess is deposited downwards onto the ground, and then the lucky dog owner says, I'm going to put that in my pocket, and gets a bag and puts it all over the excreta, which then fits nicely away or put into a bin. Dog owners, dog lovers...
Yes.
Graham, owners.
Yes.
Was it me? I just said it.
No.
It was me.
The subject is dog lovers.
Yes.
And he's repeating dog owners.
Yes, I heard that and said it aloud.
Yes. And you picked it up very cleverly.
Yes.
And you got a correct challenge.
Yes.
And you're now going to give us of your talent with 28 seconds to go on dog lovers, starting now.
I count myself amongst dog lovers, but I'm not a crazy person. I'm not one of those women you see in a pub kissing the dog. Ugh. That's wrong. They've crossed a line. Back off the mutt, crazy lady.
Jenny challenged.
Two crazies.
Yes.
Oh, yes. The worst.
It's true.
Yes. 9 seconds, Jenny. You've got him on dog lovers, starting now.
The trouble with dog lovers is that you can't trust them not to leave all...
Graham challenged.
You can trust them, Jenny. I felt slighted there by Jenny. Having just said, I am a dog lover, she then goes on radio and says, they can't be trusted.
No, she didn't say that, Graham. She said, they can't be trusted, and she's going to explain why.
Yes.
I couldn't wait. All right, then.
So, an incorrect challenge. She has another point. 5 seconds, Jenny. Dog lovers are starting now.
To leave all their worldly goods to dog homes. What a waste. How furious I would...
So, Jenny Eclair was speaking to the whistle wench, and she's an extra point, of course. She's now equal with Paul Merton in the lead, just ahead of Graham Norton and Josie Lawrence in that sequence. And, Graham, we're with you to begin. Erudite subject. The Pharaohs. Will you tell us something about the Pharaohs? By the look on your face, you wish you hadn't got the subject. But anyway, do your best. 60 seconds are starting now.
How lucky that I happen to be a leading world expert on Egyptology. I hope I don't bore you over the next 60 seconds as I reveal some of the fun and interesting facts about the pharaohs. Let's start simple, hey? They lived in Egypt. That's abroad. They lived in... Oh, I said lived, not twice.
Do you know, that round of applause indicates to me that you should deserve a bonus point for what you did. Josie...
We all learnt a lot, thank you.
Yes. If anyone wants to come and talk to me after the show, any questions about...
Right. But Josie, you challenged. What was your challenge?
They learned twice.
That's right, yes. Look, the subject of the pharaohs. 38 seconds, Josie, starting now.
I love going down to the British Museum. They have a wonderful section full of everything about the Egypts.
Sort of hesitation.
Yes, it was.
You were searching for Egyptology, I think, weren't you?
I concur.
Yes, right. So, Paul, you've got 29 seconds to tell us something about the pharaohs, starting now.
Call that a pyramid, I wouldn't be seen dead in it. Mind you, Ramesses II was a very fair pharaoh. He was known to the Egyptian people as the fairest pharaoh of...
Josie challenged.
No.
No. It was fair the first time and fairest the second
Absolutely.
time.
Oh, he's made a fool of you, Josie.
Well, it was Ramesses III, actually.
That was never his intention, but he's so clever at the game that he can do those sort of things, right? Paul, incorrect challenge. The Pharaohs, 18 seconds starting now.
18 seconds, soon to become 15. The belief of the pharaohs was that they would be buried with their precious objects, their artifacts. This would aid their entrance into the new world after their death. They would be welcomed into the firmament of the sky, the great heavens. The gods before them would say, "Have you brought your pencil case?"
So Paul was speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point. He's now a couple of points ahead of Jenny, Eclair and Graham Norton, equal in second place. Then Josie Lawrence. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. Crackers. You can take it any way you like. Tell us something about crackers in this game starting now.
Crackers, there are lots of crackers. Ooh, crackers, a biscuit with cheese on. I'm getting married in China. Let's light some Chinese firecrackers. Oh, that man's a bit off his chump. He's crackers. I'm a poet. What can I get to rhyme with I live in Caracas? These are all terms for crackers. They're very dry, and one of the best party games to play is to see how many crackers you can put inside your mouth without taking a drink. You can tell what a fun girl I am. It makes your tongue all crusty. Crackers, when they are wet, are the weirdest things in all the world.
Paul challenge.
Deviation. I don't think a wet cracker is the weirdest thing in all the world.
Yes, but you don't live inside my head.
That is the weirdest thing in all the world.
I think the benefit of the doubt goes to Josie, all right. Crackers, with you, Josie. 17 seconds starting now.
No, honestly, if you soak crackers in stale milk and roll them between the palms of...
Graham challenge.
Why would anyone do that?
Well, I told you it was weird.
Yeah, it's stupid is what it is.
Graham, it may be stupid, but she can still express it in this game.
You're quite right. I lashed out, Josie. I apologise. I'm putting my buzzer down now.
Right. 11 seconds, Josie, on crackers starting now.
I discovered this when I was camping. With the said liquid that comes from a cow and remains very old, you get your cracker and put it between these
Paul challenge.
But there was a hesitation there.
There was a hesitation,
I was trying to think of another word for hands.
Paul, you've got him with half a second to go.
Half a second. Oh. I know, I'm just disappointed as you are.
But it was a correct challenge. And you were very generous last time. You said that Josie should have the benefit of the doubt.
Thanks,
so this
Paul.
balances it out now. Half a second, Paul, on crackers starting now.
Jacobs!
So Paul Merton then was speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point has increased his lead ahead of Jenny, Eclair and Graham Norton, equal in second place. Only 1 point behind them is Josie Lawrence. And I've heard we're going into the final round. Let me give the situation as we do. It's very close. Josie Lawrence, Jenny, Eclair and Graham Norton. Only 1 point separates all three of them in second place behind Paul Merton. And who is it now? Jenny, a back rub. Are you all for those sort of things?
No.
But try and talk on the subject if you can. 60 seconds starting now.
I have no need for back rubs ever since I started Pilates. Yes, I might bore on about that form of exercise for a while, because about 6 months ago...
Graham challenge.
That would be deviation, then.
Why?
It's what she's talking about Pilates. She just told us she's going to wang on about Pilates for some time. Where the subject is a back rub.
Yeah, that's true. It's not Pilates, it's a back rub. Well done.
But the Pilates...
Yeah, no.
Is what has deemed the back rub not necessary anymore.
But that's talking about something else.
No. I mean, the benefit of that goes to you, Graham. Yes, it is a back rub and not Pilates. So 51 seconds with you, Graham, starting now.
I cannot bear the touch of another human being. So when I need a back rub, I put small amounts of dog food on my back and then unleash the hounds. Their large paws manipulate the muscles of that area just as effectively as the tiny...
Paul challenge.
I think this is the saddest thing I've ever heard. TV favourite Graham Norton has no friends in the human world. When he wants a back rub, he has to stick bits of dog food to his back.
Oh, well, when you put it like that, Paul...
Yeah, the awful thing is, Paul, that he wasn't deviating within the rules of just a minute.
No, but I think we should show him some sympathy, though.
Well, we've shown him sympathy, and we are horrified at the thought of what he goes through, but I think you have the benefit of the doubt again, Graham, and you say I have a back rub, 31 seconds starting now.
When I was in Cuba, I didn't have my beasts of a canine variety with me, and the dogs... Oh, I've said that. After all that, I think I can say dogs again. Sorry.
Right, Josie, you challenge.
He said dogs.
Yes, he did dog before. 22 seconds, a back rub with you, Josie, starting now.
I had the most fantastic back rub once from a Russian on a cargo ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But my mum's listening to this programme, so I won't say any more about that. Granny Griffin...
Paul challenged.
I thought it was a hesitation, but I actually
There
think
was
it
a slight hesitation, yes. And I've given the benefit of the doubt against you twice, Paul, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt now and say you have 8 seconds on a back rub starting now.
A back rub, for me, is best done by an alligator. What you do is you get a dead duck round your back, and this said creature comes up and starts biting. You have to go to Florida, mind you, because that's where they all live.
So, as I said a short while ago, this was to be the final round, so let me say it was a very even contest. Graham Norton, Josie Lawrence and Jenny Eclair were all equal in second place, only 1 point separating the three of them, but a few points ahead of them was Paul Merton, so we say, this week, Paul, you are our winner. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Jenny Eclair, Josie Lawrence and Graham Norton. I think Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel here, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes.
And you can join Nicholas Parsons at 6:30 next Monday evening when his guests will be Paul Merton, Stephen Fry, Sue Perkins and Fee Glover.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented, witty, clever players of this game who are going to display their verbal dexterity and wit and knowledge as they talk on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And those 4 are Stephen Fry and Fee Glover and Sue Perkins and Paul Merton. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds are up. So let's begin the show with Stephen Fry. Oh, yes. The best way to greet someone. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Well, I think warmth is important, but short of sexual lubricity or lubriciousness, a kind of enthusiasm and passion, politeness, politesse, a little element of Höflichkeit, as they say in German, always goes, I think, a long way when greeting someone, whether a friend, a nodding acquaintance, or a complete stranger. Watch a cock is not probably the right way to do it, nor would I say sup, as young people like to do, which I believe is short for what is up. So, greeting has become, if you like, a rather old-fashioned form of etiquette. It's almost not necessary these days to greet people, it seems. You simply nod your head and give their Christian name. I'm in no position to deprecate this. It may be the very best way to greet. Greet, incidentally, in Scottish means to mourn, to lament. A dirge is a greet. That's quite irrelevant in some respects, but is still relevant to the word on the card. And that's all that I have to do in order to speak for a minute, I hope.
Well, what a brilliant way to begin the show. Someone took the subject, in this case Stephen Fry, went with it for the full 60 seconds, and you not only kept going without hesitation, repetition or deviation, but you get a point for not being interrupted and a bonus point for speaking when the whistle went 2 points to Stephen Fry and none to anybody else at the moment. So let's go on to the... Sue Perkins, would you take the next subject? Loyalty cards. 60 seconds starting now.
Loyalty cards are a way of simply saying I don't get out much. It used to mean a swearing or allegiance to country, state, a lover, something portentous. Now it simply bleats, I go to the same place every day and might get a couple of quid off after I've lashed thousands and thousands. I've repeated thousands. I deserve it. Elementary error.
Stephen, you spotted it first, so you press first, and you've got in with 36 seconds to go on loyalty cards starting now.
I think it was on this very programme.
So, Paul, you had a correct challenge, and you have a point for a correct challenge, of course, and you have 34 seconds still available. Loyalty cards starting now.
I remember when I was 16 years old, this man handed me my national insurance card and said it's very important that you keep this number committed to your memory, and I have, in fact, but I realise now there's no point in me trying to say this, because there's probably be some sort of security lapse if I was to tell you that my exact...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation, although I was holding out to actually hear the number and writing it down.
Yeah, but you're not going to get it because you've got in with a correct challenge, and 18 seconds are still available. Loyalty cards starting now.
I have a nectar card, and to this day don't have a clue what it entitles me to. It fills up my wallet, occasionally gets dusty. I present it in the wrong stores and am met with frowns. We don't tick that here. I presumed I might be able to get money off. Sadly, that's been somewhat lacking. Occasionally I'll...
So, Sue Perkins was then speaking as a whistlewin, gained that extra point for doing so, and has moved into second place behind Stephen Fry, just ahead of Paul Merton and Fee Glover. And Fee, we'd like you to begin the next round. Crawling. Ooh. 60 seconds starting now.
Crawling is one of those things that it's very, very...
She's only played the game once before.
I'm just copying Stephen.
Sue, you challenge first. Crawling, 56 seconds starting now.
I have crawled twice in my life. Firstly, as a toddler. Secondly, as I approached my 40th birthday. What a night that was. I ended up on Hampstead Heath, remarking upon a slow-moving hedgehog coming towards my line of vision. It was then I realised I was on all fours, mimicking it. I was delighted there were no members of the Heath Constabulary ready and...
Fee challenge.
2 Heaths.
Right, yeah. 2 Heath. Heath Constabulary.
Yes.
I think they're called Heath Rangers, by the way. They're not Constabulary. Doesn't matter.
I do think...
Wow. That's very camp. Heath Rangers.
Do you often get a torch shot in your face?
They told Nicholas they were Heath Rangers.
You told him it was a torch.
Yeah.
It was the sound of belt buckles hitting the ground that should have warned you, I think.
Would you kindly explain what you're doing here, sir? Once I lived at one time with my family on the edge of the Heath and the college there, and the police used to come round and we used to chat to them. And he said, you know, over in the bushes there, he says, so you'll be surprised some nights, the people we get over there, you know, doing naughty things. He said, I want to say more because the children are around. He says, but you'd be surprised. We get them. And they're up to no good at all, these fellas. And, you know, they're doctors and lawyers and solicitors, you know, and vicars and all kinds of people. I thought that was rather funny, but it doesn't really matter.
There's a very sweet story of Alan Bennett, who was walking in the Heath, taking notes, thinking, you know, composing about plays and someone came up to him and said, have you got a light? And he said, no, I don't smoke. And the film went, oh, OK, and looked at him and walked away. And then Alan suddenly realised he'd been propositioned, so he called after him, but thank you.
Brilliant. Fee, you challenged on Heath. You did.
I did.
Yes, come back to me now. Right.
Yes.
34 seconds, crawling Fee, starting now.
The A303 is an absolutely miserable road.
It's a cruel mistress. I'd travel on the A30 if I were you. It's a much easier route.
If you're coming on just a minute, avoid the 303.
Yeah, avoid it at all costs.
But I must, out of fairness to the game, give to Stephen, because he challenged first. Crawling is with you, Stephen. 31 seconds, by the way, starting now.
Sycophancy is a kind of crawling, toadying, flattering, pandering. Has an interesting derivation. It means to show figs. It seems in Greek days, those who displayed that fruit to potential buyers were immensely obsequious in their manner, and so were called that name. Sycophantic is, of course, the adjective of it. Crawling is not regarded as a very attractive human quality. In fact, many of us regard it as, frankly, somewhat unappealing.
Sue challenge.
Repeated regard. There were 2 regards.
2 regards, yes.
Yep,
yes, there were.
One for that.
Well, listen, Sue, and you've got him with 3 seconds to go on crawling, starting now.
Nobody bothers to crawl to me. I am seen as someone who might...
So Sue Perkins, speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, has moved forward. She's taken the lead ahead of Stephen Fry, Paul and Fee trailing a little bit. Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my musical abilities. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
When I was 7 years old, I was a bit of a child prodigy. They used to see me playing on the linoleum. And then when I went to school, I was given a ukulele and a violin, and I was asked to choose which particular instrument I would like to play.
Sue, you challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. So you got him with 47 seconds on my musical abilities, Sue, starting now.
I won't lie, I'm committed to music, but I can barely play a note. I falter, particularly with the piano. I started learning at the age of 6 with a woman called Mrs. Green, who was possessed of one singular tooth, and she would whistle through it as she demanded I play endless scale.
Stephen challenged.
Play.
Yes, she was play. So, Stephen, you've got him with 31 seconds on my musical abilities, starting now.
Sadly, I have Van Gogh's ear for music, and yet I adore it. It is one of the passions of my life. I wish that I could express it. I feel like a bird that cannot fly, a fish that is unable to swim. Inside me is this powerful impulse for the deepest of all the arts, I believe, and yet I simply do not have the capacity to sing or to play or to drum.
Fee challenge.
Oh, well, I think there was a play. Did you play too much?
Not that I remember, but you may well be right. Nicholas will remember, of course.
But he repeated all 3 times.
I certainly said "or" a lot, didn't I?
So,
Can I nick your all?
Right, you take your all. And you've got 9 seconds, Fee, on my musical abilities, starting now.
It will surprise many of you that I used to play the oboe to grade 8 standard, which is why I have got crushingly appalling teeth, because... So everybody else
so Fee Glover was then speaking as a whistle gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's in 3rd place behind Stephen Fry, and Sue Perkins still in the lead. Stephen, this is an interesting subject that's been chosen, probably especially for you. It's 36-letter word. It's hippopotomonstrosesquipedaliophobia. I don't know whether you can pronounce it. So you've heard of it. So will you talk on that subject, starting now?
I think it's hippomonstrosesquipedaliophobia, which is a fear of long words. Sesquipedalian is a long word, of course, and I've said long word twice, probably 3 times.
Paul, you challenge.
It was a repetition of long words.
That's right, yes. And there are 49 seconds for you, Paul.
Sorry, what was the subject again?
I knew you were going to do that. Hippopotomonstrosesquipedaliophobia. You're writing it down, are you?
I'm not. Writing it down would be pointless.
You're right. You have 49 seconds starting now.
The fear of long words, as Nicholas has just pronounced, is one which I share because often language is used to obscure meaning or perhaps to indicate some other direction that the speaker wants you to go in that is perhaps camouflaging.
Oh, yes, Stephen challenged.
2 perhapses.
2 perhapses, I'm afraid, yes. Stephen, you've got 34 seconds. Tell us more about hippopotomonstrosesquipedaliophobia in this game, starting now.
Wants to break the thing down. It comes from the large river mammal, added to a sense of monstrosity, and the Latin for 1.5 feet. feet, which means prolixity, using sophomoric, overlong, if you like, constructions. It's not, again, considered appealing. It's showing off. Cigar store words the Americans prefer. Little ones, bitty ones. But we...
Sue challenged.
Repetition of ones.
Yeah.
Little ones, bitty ones. Right. 9 seconds for you, Sue, on this subject. Starting now.
I have recently diagnosed myself with a phobia of pronouncing the word for long words.
A fee challenge.
Oh, well, it's words, but it's words in the word thing anyway.
Word and words.
Yes.
Words and words. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologise, We'd love to hear from you. Sue, you got 2 seconds on hippopotomonstrosesquipedaliophobia. And 2 seconds starting now.
I actually met a hippo once. He was absolutely charming.
Sue Perkins was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, has increased her lead at the end of the round. And Sue, we're back with you to begin. And this subject is what you can find in my local library. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Now, Nicholas, I don't want to teach you to suck eggs, but what I find in my local library are books, mainly for people to take away and borrow. They can open the doors, present a card, and then leave with nuggets of literature, bound in plastic, so ne'er a spill should tarnish their incredible cover. For those who have tunnel vision, there are also volumes that will allow them to read at some distance. My grandmother used to love a Catherine Cookson from a library. She would mount it at the end of her long hallway and still, with those uncataracted eyes, be able to make out even the most nugatory of vowels. It is an incredible place of learning. We must fight to make sure that no government removes these accessible institutions which gain those who have no record. Save the libraries.
Sue, your timing was impeccable. You not only kept going without hesitation, repetition or deviation for the full 60 seconds, and you've got 2 points, 1 for not being interrupted and 1 for speaking where the whistle went. And Fee, it's your turn to begin the subject, making up your wedding vows. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I think it would be a very good idea for everybody to make up their wedding vows on a purely individual basis and to be a little bit more realistic about what it is they're expecting from a lifetime of unity. I would break this down into days of the week and I would say, dearest Rick, husband of mine, on a Monday night, would you mind terribly if I came home smelling of gin and tonic and disappointment? To which he would say, I don't mind at all. He would then say, do you mind if on Tuesday evening I might arrive back at the front door of our delightful abode, smelling...
Too smelling.
I smelt, didn't I? I did. I went whiffy. I went off.
You put a bit too much odour into it, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yes.
Right, Sue, a correct challenge, 26 seconds, making up your wedding vows, starting now.
If I were to get married, I would choose not to obey. Equally, I would opt not to love or cherish either, because I'm a capricious sausage.
Paul challenge.
What's wrong with either?
I've gone off him.
Have you? Sorry, is this on? It's on.
So an incorrect challenge then, Sue. You've still got making up your wedding vows, starting now.
It's a new vogue for people to suddenly freestyle when they get to the altar, less acceptable in heterosexual liaisons, which are sanctioned by the Lord above. However, if one goes off-piste sexually, you can pretty much do what you like. You can get married in a taverna with people singing...
So Sue Perkins is truly on song today, and she got another point for speaking as the whistle went then, and has increased her lead over Stephen Fry, Paul Merton and Fee Glover in that order. And Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is the American Dream. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The American Dream. The Americans believe in the American Dream, and I suppose if you give it a certain amount of credence, why shouldn't it work for you? The American Dream is that anybody, providing they're born in America, can rise to the position of President of the United States. But, of course, it's not as easy as that. Some people are in
Stephen Challenge.
Well, he rather fell apart, I'm sorry to say. It was good. It was good. I liked it. And then...
You're covering up your
and then it sort of
remark,
stopped.
aren't you? Right.
Yeah.
He paused.
Hesitation, yeah.
He paused. Yeah. And so you've got a correct challenge, Stephen, a point for that. 42 seconds, the American dream starting now.
Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, used the phrase manifest destiny to describe that sense that America must always push forward, that it's a land predicated on progress, on movement outwards, on gaining. Also, of course, I suppose there's a sense, isn't there, as Paul has already intimated very accurately, that anybody, no matter who they are or where they were born, from what circumstances they sprang, might rise to the highest office in the land. From the smallest backwoodsman to the little urban slum dweller, there is that faint possibility they could become foreign secretary or Secretary of State, as they're known. That Secretary said, oh dear!
Oh, you challenge.
A repetition of secretary.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, well done. It goes for so long. This is the agony of this game, isn't it? Going for so many seconds, you get nothing for it. But Paul got in with 5 seconds to go on the American dream, starting now.
I am as disappointed as any of you that there are only 5 seconds left. I really don't know how to make it up to you. Walt Disney...
So, Paul Merton was then speaking was when gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's just ahead of Fee Glover, just beside Stephen Fry, and they're all training Sue Perkins a little. Stephen, it's your turn to begin. Now, we've had the subject of the best way to greet someone. We'd now like you to take the subject of the worst way to greet someone. You have 60 seconds as usual, and your time starts now.
Probably the worst way to greet someone is with disappointment and, if you like, accident, a sense of not caring who they are, not really wanting to know any more about them. Wouldn't that be rude? Impoliteness is perhaps the bane of our life. I do think sweetness of nature, cheerfulness and optimism are much disregarded qualities in human nature, and they begin with a greeting. So let's remember that the worst way to greet someone is as if you don't care who they are. You should matter. They should matter. Oh dear, matter.
Yes, repetition. It matters.
Too much matter there. So, Fee, you've got in with 27 seconds to go on the worst way to greet someone, starting now.
Swearing at somebody is definitely the worst way to greet somebody, and it's a...
Stephen Challenge.
Two somebodies.
Yeah, there was two somebodies.
Oh, in such a short space of
time.
I
know, it was cruel. I mean, I feel horrible. And yet...
Yeah. Stephen, shall we give you a point for a correct challenge, but leave it with Fee, because she hasn't played the game much before?
I think you're right. Let's patronise her. I agree.
You are patronising me now.
I'm over here.
Can someone patronise a man 4 times his age? I suppose you can.
You're going too far now.
It's only 3 times.
I'm in trouble now.
Well, no, the only trouble you've got is I'm taking the subject away from you. I'm going to give Fee the benefit of the doubt and say there are 22 seconds on the worst way to greet someone, starting now.
I didn't really want it back, but anyway, now I've got it. I was going to talk about swearing and say that...
Sue Challenge.
There was a metaphysical issue of not wanting it. That's not in the rules. Swearing. Repetition of swearing.
No, she talked about swear before, didn't she?
Yes, she swear.
Forgive me.
She swear, and this is swearing.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm wrong. I'm an idiot. I'm a buffoon. I'm a charlatan. Goodbye.
So an incorrect challenge, Fee. 17 seconds, the worst way to greet someone, starting now.
I'm going to forget about the profane words that might be used as the worst way to greet someone, and instead I'm going to dwell on hand signals, which, coming from the world of radio, as I surely do, is often a very effective way to say to someone, this is the worst way to greet you. I will spare you because you look like such a delightful audience.
So, Fee Glover was in speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point, and she's moved forward, but she's still in third place, just ahead of Paul, behind Stephen, and Sue's still out in the lead. And Sue Perkins, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a nice subject. Georgian architecture. Tell us something about it. Not an easy subject to talk about, but a lovely image it conjures up. with 60 seconds starting now.
My favourite architecture is Georgian architecture. Who can't but admire the lavish, epic proportions of those beautiful country houses? As they do, sat in exquisite parkland, the feature of so many Jane Austen novels. I love Palladian grandeur, the sense of pure space that you can inhabit. You walk into a hallway with its vaulted ceilings, the width of halls. Despite the fact the Victorians were yet to come with their lavish gowns, one could slip through so easily in an Empire-line dress. It shows a commitment to the ample. It says, here I am, imperial monstrosity, that I could wander through architraves with so much space between...
Stephen Chance, it is physically impossible to wander through an architrave. An architrave is a solid...
All I can say is thank you.
No, the architrave would be above and you may wander underneath it, but not through it. Right. Well, listen, Stephen, 12 seconds. You tell us something about Georgian architecture starting now.
Elegance, harmony and proportion, I suppose, are the hallmarks of great Georgian architecture. Within urban planning, they really did contribute extraordinarily to this capital city, in which we're speaking even now. The squares...
So, Stephen Fry, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. He's moved forward, but he's still in second place, ahead of Fee Glover and Paul Merton, and Stu's in the lead. We're moving into the final round. Right, as we move into the final round, Fee Glover and Paul Merton are equal in third place. They're a few points behind Stephen Fry, and he's still 3 or 4 points behind Sue Perkins. And Paul, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is offending people. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Offending people, sometimes it happens deliberately. Often it can be something that's accidental, or you might offend somebody because they don't like the look of you as you walk down the street, the cut of your jib, the shape of your nose, the silhouette that you throw against a public building may be complete anathema to them. They may think to themselves, you are an ugly human being. You do not deserve to walk across this earth. I'd like to take your miserable neck. Mind you, I've had some other appearances on Gardener's Question Time that went quite better than that. And also, going too far.
You were going too well, going too fast, weren't you?
Fast.
You couldn't keep the pace up.
No.
Right. Sue got in. You went for 30 seconds. Well done. But Sue got in there with... what was this challenge, Sue?
Hesitation.
Yes, that's right. 30 seconds. Well, I have to ask, in case it's something different, you see. 30 seconds, offending people starting now.
I don't like to offend people, and in fact, I'm pretty timid in real life, but sometimes just the cut of my jib, as Paul was saying, can cause umbrage. There's a certain sense that women should disport themselves in a traditional manner, which I don't do, not by deliberate ploy, but simply I can't. I'm not someone who defers, can be demure, look pretty, sit in a corner. No, I'm yap and other words like that. But it's my garrulous nature which sometimes can cause offence. I know wallflower...
Right. So Sue Perkins came going to the whistle when, gained that extra point for doing so, and brought the show to a close with a fine panache. Let me give you the final situation. Paul Merton, who has been known to excel and win on many occasions, finished in a slightly strong fourth place. Fee Glover, who's only played the game once before, filled in a magnificent third place. Stephen Fry, who won last time with these four were together, is in second place, but out in the lead, and nearly 5 or 6 points ahead of Stephen, is Sue Perkins. So we say, poo. I'll tell you what actually threw me. I was about to say, we say, is, and I was about to say, and there were 4 people in the front row with their hands like that, just ready to clap, and it just threw me for a moment. So we say, out in the lead, and so we say, this week, Sue, you are our winner. Thank you. So it only remains to say thank you to these 4 fine, exciting, clever players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Fee Glover and Stephen Fry. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, thank you, but don't forget, tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute! Yay!
And Just a Minute returns for the next series in August.